Chapter 358. Increasing Proficiency. You 10 people rest for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we'll start the second round. Just like that, the 10 people found a place to sit down and began to rest. Yixian didn't mind and took out a few pills to recover his qi to its peak. But at this time, Yixian suddenly saw a disciple from the Water Moon sect talking to the youth from the 10th group. Could it be that this youth is the descendant of someone from the Water Moon sect? Yixian guessed. He remembered that the participants of the martial arts conference couldn't be disciples from the 3 sections. But this wasn't strange. The children of the protectors and elders of the Water Moon sect, Silver Moon sect, and Broken Moon sect didn't have to join the sect. 10 minutes passed quickly, and the other 9 people had more or less recovered. Next, it was time for the main event. Among the 10 people, one of them would receive a 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. The second and third place rewards were also very good. Yixian slowly stood up because he saw the judge arrive. The judge was also an inner disciple of the Water Moon sect. He looked at the 10 people and took out a pot. This time, Yixian's 10 people didn't need to draw lots. Instead, the judge would draw lots. The judge drew 2 lots and said, "Number 3 against number 7. Then, the 2 people went up the stage. All 10 people had the strength of 9 dragons and were of the same cultivation level, so the battle would be very intense. The spectators in the 3 spectator stands also rubbed their eyes and watched with great interest. Begin. Under the judge's order, the 2 people on the stage began to fight. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of weapons colliding rang out continuously. The battle was very intense. The 8 people below the stage were also watching carefully because they might encounter these 2 people. If they watched a bit more and found a flaw, it would be very helpful for the next battle. After about a minute, the first battle was decided. Number 3 won. The second battle, number 1 against number 8. This battle lasted for about a minute, and number 8 won immediately. The third battle, number 4 against number 6. Number 4 won. The fourth match, number 5 versus number 10. Yixian paid more attention to this match because this number 10 was the youth who had a heaven-class movement technique. His strength was not bad. There was no doubt that number 10 had won this battle. Next up, it was Yixian's number 2 versus number 9. Number 2, number 9, get on stage. The referee shouted. Yixian walked into the ring with the Ba Huang sword in hand. His opponent was an old man. Although both of them had the strength of 9 dragons, the old man looked to be in his 70s. He had trained for more than 50 years more than Yixian. So Yixian guessed that the old man's swordsmanship must be very impressive. "Young man, it's your misfortune to have met me," the old man said with a smile. "Haha, I'll return those words to you word for word," Yixian said with a smile. "Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Since that's the case, let's see who's the real deal." The old man gripped his sword tightly with his withered hand. "Begin." The referee's voice sounded, and the 2 figures in the ring dashed out at almost the same time. Facing such an opponent, Yixian did not dare to be careless and immediately used the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship. However, what surprised him was that the old man was also using the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship. "Oh, also the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship? Haha, I'm sorry." The old man laughed. Yixian was slightly taken aback, then said with a faint smile, "Is that so? Ordinary people, even if they specialized in a heaven-class martial technique, would only be able to reach 100% mastery after a few decades of training." Now, Yixian had already cultivated the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship to 70% mastery. In addition to the King of Fighters bloodline and the 20% increase in movement speed, there was no doubt that he would win this battle. However, he chose to preserve his strength. This was because this old man was a very good training target. The 2 of them used the same swordsmanship, which was beyond everyone's expectations. At this moment, many people in the spectators' stands were already interested in Yixian. They seemed to be using the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship. That's right, it's the Heavenly Wind swordsmanship. I'm also practicing this martial technique. However, I'm only at 60% mastery, which is not as good as the 2 of them. This kid looks young, but his aptitude is not bad. Although he only has the strength of 9 dragons, it seems that his heavenly wind swordsmanship is at least at 70% mastery. 70% mastery is actually able to compete with 90% mastery. This kid's strength is extraordinary. I wonder which clan he's from. A group of people began to discuss. At this moment, in the ring, "Good kid, you actually used me as a training partner. Take this." The old man cursed, and his attacks became even more ferocious. However, Xian was faster than him, and his heavenly wind swordsmanship was only at 20% mastery, so he could not do anything to Xian. Ding! Heavenly wind swordsmanship proficiency increased by 10%, currently at 80% mastery. In less than half a minute, such a notification sounded in Xian's mind. Hee, it's not bad to have such an opponent as a training partner, Xian said in his heart. He could also see that the old man's heavenly wind swordsmanship was at 90% mastery and was very skilled. Therefore, he could observe the old man's swordsmanship in battle to make up for his shortcomings. After another minute, ding! Heavenly wind swordsmanship proficiency increased by 10%, currently at 90% mastery. The system notification sounded again. Now, Xian's heavenly wind swordsmanship was not much different from the old man's heavenly wind swordsmanship. However, Xian was still going on. How is this possible? In less than 2 minutes, this kid's swordsmanship has increased by 20%. Is this kid pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? The old man was very surprised. He thought that Xian was deliberately hiding his strength, and it was impossible for him to improve in these 2 minutes. Not only did he see it, but even the audience outside the arena was also very surprised. Even for those with high aptitude, it would take at least 10 years to reach 90% mastery of the Sky Wind Sword art. Among the disciples of my Water Moon sect, only one person has reached 80% mastery, and he's already over 30 years old. This kid is a genius. An elder of the Water Moon sect said. Originally, he would not be interested in the 9 Dragons group, but his grandson was participating today, so he came to take a look. He did not expect to see Xian. Elder Wu, I've also taken a liking to it. Don't fight with me later. Another Water Moon sect elder laughed. That won't do. It's a fair competition. This battle had already been going on for 5 minutes. In the first 2 minutes, Xian's heavenly wind swordsmanship had increased from 70% mastery to 90% mastery. Chapter 359. What plan? Looks like this is the only way. It's time to end this battle. Xian's attacks suddenly intensified as he thought of this. He had gone easy on his opponent just now to see if he could use this opportunity to raise his heavenly wind sword technique to 100% mastery. He did not expect that it would not work. The old man could not understand Xian's intentions. He was already feeling some pressure, and now that Xian was going all out, he was hit multiple times in less than 3 rounds. What's wrong with this kid? The old man was very depressed. At this moment, Xian's figure suddenly appeared in front of him like a ghost, and then stabbed out with his sword. In the next moment, the old man felt a cold sensation on his throat. Xian's Bahuang's sword was already at his throat. If this was not an arena, the old man would probably be dead. Number 2 wins. The referee announced. After the old man was defeated, his face turned red. He cupped his fists and said, "This little brother's strength is extraordinary. This old man admires you." They both had the strength of 9 dragons. They both practiced the heavenly wind sword technique, and they both had 90% mastery. However, he was defeated by Xian, who was younger than him in his 50s. This meant that he had lived for decades in vain. In this way, Xian entered the top 5. Out of the 5, another person got a bye. Coincidentally, it was number 2 this time. Number 2 was Xian. What a coincidence. My luck is not bad. I got 1 out of 5. After hearing the referee announce the number, Xian could not help but smile. It seemed that he could directly enter the top 3. In the next round, it was number 3 against number 8. The winner was number 8. As for number 4 against number 10 naturally won. Number 2, number 4, and number 10, the 3 of them entered the top 3 of the 9 Dragons group. On the other hand, Yi Xian's luck didn't seem to have run out yet. The empty spot in the top 3 actually landed on his head again. This meant that as long as he won one more round, he would be able to obtain the 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. This would allow him to break through to the strength of 12 dragons. Number 4 against number 10. The referee shouted again. Yi Xian had also watched this match carefully. Indeed, this young man's identity was extraordinary, because number 4 had actually held back quite a bit, clearly deliberately going easy on number 10. Number 10 wins. When the referee announced this result, Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. It seemed that this number 10 was already decided by the 3 sections. He wondered if he would incur the wrath of the 3 sects if he killed number 10 and took first place. However, Yi Xian wasn't someone who was afraid of trouble. Moreover, there were so many people watching. The 3 sects wouldn't go back on their word. Rest for 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, the finals of the 9 Dragons group will begin. The referee shouted. In order to increase the publicity effect, the finals naturally had to be more intense. Soon, 10 minutes had passed, and the referee walked back to the arena. 9 Dragons group finals, number 2 versus number 10. Please enter the arena. The referee shouted. Yi Xian had been waiting for a long time. He directly jumped into the arena. Coincidentally, his opponent jumped into the arena from the opposite side. The two of them walked towards each other. I believe both of you understand the rules. The winner of this finals will be the owner of this 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. As for the second and third place, there will be no reward, the referee said. Yi Xian nodded in understanding. In the 9 Dragons group, only the first place would be rewarded. In the 19 Dragons group, only the top 3 would be rewarded. The young man in front of him wasn't considered handsome, but his features were distinct. He didn't pay attention to the 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass in the referee's hand. Instead, his gaze fell on Yi Xian. He frowned slightly and looked at him with a strange expression. At the same time, Yi Xian looked at him quietly. This 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass was already reserved for him. Therefore, he had to defeat this young man who had a heaven-class movement technique. Although he didn't know what kind of movement technique this young man had learned, he could see that this young man's movement technique was only at 20 to 30%. He couldn't win. Both of you, are you ready? The referee turned to look at the two of them. Yi Xian and the young man nodded slightly, indicating that they were ready. Begin. As soon as the referee finished speaking, he retreated. At the same time, Yi Xian and the young man flew towards each other. This was Yi Xian's first battle with a martial artist younger than him. However, this didn't mean that he would show mercy. However, since this dragon bloodgrass belonged to the 3 sects, he naturally had to help the 3 sects put on a show. The two of them instantly exchanged blows. 2 heaven-class sword techniques began to clash. The young man was naturally using a low-grade heaven-class weapon, and the Ba Huang sword's amplification was also increased to the level of a low-grade heaven-class weapon. Therefore, the two of them were evenly matched. However, the eyes of the spectators lit up when they saw this. Although both of them had the power of 9 dragons, they were much stronger than those who had been eliminated previously. This battle was definitely going to be exciting. Although the young man's sword technique was only at 40%, he had a heaven-class movement technique. In addition, Yi Xian was going easy on him, so the two of them fought for 30 rounds. This person is so strong. Where did Grandpa find such an expert? The young man was very surprised. He was the person involved. Naturally, he could tell that Yi Xian wasn't using his full strength. As for him, he was already using all his strength to block. However, as time passed, the young man felt that something was wrong. Hey, my chi is almost depleted. It's about time. The young man said softly as he attacked. About time. When Yi Xian heard this, he was stunned. Then he reacted. It seemed that the young man thought that he was there to put on a show. Yes, it's about time. Yi Xian nodded slightly. His attacks suddenly became more aggressive. What are you doing? Why aren't you following the plan? The young man said softly with widened eyes. Plan? What plan? Yi Xian asked, pretending not to know anything. Didn't my grandpa invite you? The young man suddenly reacted. Who's your grandpa? Yi Xian asked. My grandpa is the 3rd elder of the Water Moon sect. As long as you give me first place, I'll ask Grandpa to give you a 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass later. The young man was a little greedy for fame and fortune. He wanted to experience the feeling of first place, so he immediately offered a price. Words carry no weight. Little brother, I'm sorry. Yixian's eyes flashed. His attacks instantly doubled. With a clang, a long sword flew out. Then, there was a flash of golden light. A long sword was pressed against the young man's throat. Ew. The young man's eyes widened. He didn't dare to say anything. Number 10 has been defeated. The champion of the 9 Dragons group is number 2. The judge immediately announced. Yixian withdrew his long sword and cupped his fists. Thank you for letting me win. He also understood that this wasn't predetermined. Otherwise, the judge would have a strange expression on his face. The young man was already speechless. He originally thought that Yixian was arranged by his grandpa to put on a show with him. He didn't expect that Yixian wasn't, and even took away the first place that belonged to him. Chapter 360. Continue participating. This is the reward for the first place of the 9 Dragons group, a 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass. The judge walked over and handed the item to Yixian without hesitation. Yixian didn't stand on ceremony and accepted the dragon bloodgrass. Then he cupped his fist at the 3 spectators' stands and left. Everyone present was a little surprised. Not only did Yixian win the first place of the 9 Dragons group, but he didn't even reveal his name. Why was he in such a hurry to leave? Was he in a hurry to eat? Sigh, what a pity. This kid doesn't seem to want to join our Watermoon sect. Forget it. The elders on the spectator stands shook their heads helplessly. They didn't want to force it. After all, there were many disciples younger than Yixian in the Watermoon sect who had already reached the 12-13 dragon level. After receiving the 10-year-old dragon bloodgrass, Yixian quickly left the Watermoon sect and swallowed it directly. Ding! The host has broken through to the strength of 12 dragons. Even if an ordinary person consumed the dragon bloodgrass, it would take a while for them to refine it. However, for Yixian, this kind of special treasure was effective by swallowing it directly. From the strength of 9 dragons to the strength of 12 dragons in a single thought, no one would believe him if he told them. Yixian still had over 1 million soul condensing stones in his yin and yang ring. He immediately swallowed them. Ding! The host has broken through to the strength of 15 dragons. After hearing the notification, Yixian's lips curled up slightly. He had miscalculated. He originally thought that he would only be able to break through to the strength of 14 dragons. He didn't expect to break through to the strength of 15 dragons. It was a pleasant surprise. If he were to run normally, his speed would probably be the same as a martial artist with the strength of 18 dragons. This was because he had a 20% movement speed bonus. If I use Beast King's Rampage, I can reach the strength of 20 dragons. It seems that it won't be a problem for me to win the first place of the 19 Dragons group. Yixian was calculating in his heart, but he did not dare to be careless. This was because almost everyone in the 19 Dragons group had the power of 19 dragons. There were definitely many people like the old man from before who had mastered Heaven Tier Sword technique to 90% completion. However, in order not to be suspected, Yixian changed his appearance. He put on a face-changing mask in the Devouring system and put on a smiley face mask. This way, no one would be able to recognize him. In any case, the martial arts conference was all about the participation token. Moreover, when the time came for the test, he would have 15 dragons of strength and not 9 dragons of strength. No one would think that he was the champion of the 9 Dragons group in the morning. Half a day passed. During this half a day, the Watermoon sect still had quite a few martial artists come as guests. There were even experts with 20 dragons and above. Yixian disguised himself and went in again. There weren't many participants in the group of 19 dragons, only 30 or so. When Yixian entered, these people just happened to be testing their realms. 17 dragons strength, the strength of 18 dragons. 19 dragons strength, 19 dragons strength, 19 dragons strength. Hearing the shouts of the testing disciple, Yixian also felt immense pressure. Sure enough, those who came were all middle-aged or elderly. Moreover, almost all of them had 19 dragon strength. Although they might not be able to use the 100-year-old dragon's bloodgrass, they could still use it. Soon, it was Xianxia's turn. Just like in the morning, he punched the stone tablet. 6 flying dragons flew around him, 1 large and 5 small. As soon as he revealed his strength, he attracted quite a few cold and mocking remarks. What a joke, coming to participate with only 15 dragons of strength. He's really looking for death. He's even wearing a mask to prevent others from recognizing him. He doesn't look very old. Indeed, he's looking for death. Although this tournament doesn't allow killing, there's no rule against maiming. If his arms are chopped off, he'll be crippled in the future. Isn't that good? Who knows? Maybe we'll run into this kind of idiot. That's true, huh? The 2 martial artists close to Xian laughed heartily. Xian remembered these 2 people. One had 17 dragons, and the other had 18 dragons. However, he didn't want to pay attention to these 2 people. He only lowered his voice and muttered coldly, "Idiots! What did you say?" When one of the brawny men heard this, he immediately shot forward and grabbed Xian by the collar. "What? You want to fight here?" Xian sneered. "You think I don't dare?" The brawny man glared at him with a ferocious expression. "If you dare, then do it. If you don't, then let go of me. Or else," Xian didn't continue speaking. "Or else what? You're just a piece of trash with 15 dragons of strength. How dare you threaten us?" The other man couldn't stand it anymore and spoke up. "Or else, I'll cut off all your arms." Xian replied, "Ha ha ha." As soon as he said this, the 2 men immediately burst into laughter. Not only that, but the others around them also did the same. A martial artist with 15 dragons of strength threatening to cut off the arms of a martial artist with 18 dragons of strength. What a joke. "Stop." At this moment, the disciple on the side stopped them. As the organizer, the Water Moon sect naturally had to maintain the peace of the scene. Consider yourself lucky, kid. You better pray you don't meet me at the convention. Otherwise, not to mention your arms, even your legs and penis will be cut off by me. The brawny man let go of Xian's collar and retreated to the back. Hearing this, Xian couldn't help but curl his lips. He didn't even have the guts to make a move, yet he dared to threaten to cut off his penis. He was courting death. It wasn't his first day in the Bloodstone continent. This was a world of the strong. It didn't mean that you were stronger than your opponent just because your cultivation level was higher. In the past, there was someone who killed many experts with 20 to 30 dragons of strength when they were at 10 dragons of strength. Of course, such examples were rare, so most people would think that those with higher cultivation levels were stronger. Soon, the 30 or so people were all tested. This time, there was no need to divide into groups. They directly drew lots to fight. This time, Xian was number 18. Then, the 30 people were brought to the same arena as in the morning. At this time, the arena was already filled with people, twice as many as in the morning. This time, the rules were the same. The first round was to fight according to order. Xian was number 17. The 19-dragon group was much more interesting than the 9-dragon group. These participating martial artists were all of high status. The first round was a battle between 2 18 dragons. It could be said that the sky darkened and the earth darkened. Everyone was excited by the fight. 18 dragons were already qualified to hold the position of protector in the Water Moon sect. Xian also watched carefully. Although these 2 18 dragons didn't have heaven-level movement techniques, they had practiced their 2 sword techniques to 70 to 80% completion. If they were careless, they would lose their arms and legs. Chapter 361. Challenging someone of a higher rank, the second match was still between 2 18 dragons experts. It was still a fierce battle. However, during the third round, a special situation occurred. Number 5's arm was cut off by number 6. At the same time, number 6 took away his interspatial ring. However, the Water Moon sect did not stop this kind of robbery. As a result, the following matches were even more intense. The spectators felt as if they were on fire. Below the arena, Xian could not help but reveal a devilish smile. Not stopping this kind of robbery was exactly what he wanted, wasn't it? The spectators had already expected the following matches. They would fight to the death for each other's interspatial ring. An interspatial ring was the most important thing besides one's life. Even if one had a good relationship, one could not casually hand over their interspatial ring to another person for safekeeping. After 5 matches, 4 people's interspatial rings were taken away by their opponents. Next, it was Yi Xian's turn. TSK, I wonder who my opponent is. Yi Xian jumped into the arena curiously. It was the same for his opponent. When Yi Xian saw his opponent's face, a murderous look flashed through his eyes. Wasn't this the brawny man who grabbed his collar just now? It's you? The brawny man did not expect his opponent to be Yi Xian. This was too much of a coincidence. Just now, Yi Xian had called him a fool. Now, he could finally take revenge. At this moment, Yi Xian was thinking the same thing. His collar was grabbed by the brawny man just now. How could he not take revenge? After all, it was his first time being grabbed by the collar. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road, Yi Xian said with a smiley face mask. That's right. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. The brawny man nodded in agreement. The referees of the 19 Dragons group were different from the 9 Dragons group. After all, they had to find someone who could control the situation. Therefore, the referees this time were elders. The elders of the Watermoon sect had at least 20 dragon power. Their combat strength was not bad. When the old man saw that the two of them had a grudge against each other, he didn't ask any more questions and directly said, "If the two of you are ready, then let's begin." As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly retreated. At the same time, Yi Xian and the brawny man also made their move. I said that I would cut off your arms. Now that I've met you, it'll save me the trouble of finding you after the match. Yi Xian's eyes flickered as he immediately executed the Sky Wind Sword technique. This burly man had 17 dragons of strength, while Yi Xian only had 15 dragons of strength. However, the latter had a 20% increase in movement speed, so in terms of speed, Yi Xian had the upper hand. However, Yi Xian purposely showed weakness at the start of the fight and went easy on the brawny man. "Oomph, you dare to threaten to cripple me with just this little bit of weight? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Since that's the case, then you can just die." The brawny man wielded a heavy long sword and wildly attacked Yi Xian. Every strike was aimed at Yi Xian's vital points. Although one couldn't kill in the arena, accidents were inevitable. Furthermore, the brawny man wasn't a disciple of the Watermoon sect. Even if he killed Yi Xian, he probably wouldn't be punished. Moreover, attacking a vital point was the best way to expose the opponent's weakness. This was a principle that everyone understood. Clang! The sound of metal colliding rang out. The Bahuang sword in Yi Xian's hand was suddenly knocked away. The brawny man's eyes lit up. He shot forward like an arrow and was determined to cut off Yi Xian's left hand. This was because Yi Xian wore an interspatial ring on his left index finger. Huh! Yi Xian's expression changed under his smiling mask. He didn't panic. After all, this was intentional. The brawny man swept his long sword, and an arm flew into the air. However, to everyone's surprise, what they expected didn't happen. Yi Xian's arm wasn't cut off. The arm that flew into the air actually belonged to the brawny man in front of Yi Xian. What? The brawny man felt pain in his left arm. When he looked down, he discovered that his entire forearm was gone. The cut was clean, and blood had just spurted out. Then, a silver light flashed in front of his eyes. In the next moment, even his right arm was thrown into the air. "I'll leave you with a pair of legs. Get off the arena yourself." Yi Xian calmly caught half of the brawny man's forearm, then gently removed the interspatial ring from his finger. When he touched the interspatial ring, he had already emptied its contents into his devouring space. The brawny man was in so much pain that his veins popped out. How was he going to live after his arms were cut off? Was he going to rely on his legs alone? He'd probably need help even going to the toilet. "Bastard, I'm going to kill you." Another man with 18 dragons immediately jumped into the arena when he saw his companion end up like this. "How dare you?" At this moment, the referee also took a big stride forward and blocked his path. An 18 dragons was really nothing in front of a 20 dragons Watermoon sect elder. The man stopped in his tracks, not daring to move forward. The Water Moon sect elder snorted softly, then announced, "Number 18 wins." The brawny man's arms were cut off by Xianxia, which was beyond everyone's expectations. The surrounding spectators watched as the brawny man was carried off the arena and treated. Losing his interspatial ring wasn't a big deal, but losing his arms was a big deal. Fortunately, this level of healing medicine had the effect of reattaching broken arms. As long as the brawny man's arms could be reattached, everything would be fine. However, the brawny man couldn't stand the humiliation. As he was being carried off, he continued to curse Xianxia loudly. "Idiot!" Xianxia shook his head helplessly, then walked off the arena and began to look at the items he got from the brawny man. Some people who lived on the edge of the blade all had their own little stash, so they wouldn't carry the good stuff with them. Therefore, Xianxia didn't get much this time, only worth 20,000 condensing soul stones. He directly devoured them to increase his strength. When the time came, he could use Beast King's Rampage to increase his strength. After all, he wasn't 100% sure that he would win first place in the group of 19 dragons. This battle fell into everyone's eyes. Other than the spectators, even the contestants were surprised. Even they couldn't see through the method Xianxia used to cut off the brawny man's arms. What kind of martial art is that? He can control 8 blades to float in the air. If all 8 blades were used at the same time, the brawny man's head would have been cut off. That long sword is also a heaven weapon, but it looks like it was specially made by a heaven-ranked blacksmith. This person's identity is probably not ordinary. Let's not talk about that first. 15 dragons of strength defeated 17 dragons of strength. If this person grows up, his combat strength will be extraordinary. These contestants were all looking at each other and talking, even though many of them had never seen each other before today. Chapter 362. Another victory. In these people's estimations, Xianxia might already be able to fight against an 18 dragon martial artist. However, it was absolutely impossible for him to become the #1 expert. Not only that, but even the Water Moon sect elder in the arena felt that something was off. He felt like he had seen that long sword somewhere before. Next, number 19 against number 20. The elder continued to shout, continuing the next round. Xianxia noticed his gaze and immediately reacted. His long sword seemed to have been exposed, but it didn't matter. After all, the young man who won first place in the 9 Dragons group had already left. Who would pay attention to his weapon? The competition was still going on. There were a total of 36 people in the 19 Dragons group, so there were 18 rounds. The burly man's companion was number 26, and his opponent happened to be a 17 Dragons of strength martial artist. After the previous scene, he vented his anger on his opponent. His opponent's arms and legs were all chopped off, and he came alone. There wasn't even anyone to collect his corpse. The Water Moon sect couldn't stand it anymore and sent a disciple to treat him and reattach his arms and legs. The first round ended. Apart from Xianxia, who had 15 dragons of strength, the other 17 people had 18 dragons of strength and 19 dragons of strength. However, these people didn't dare to be careless. If Xianxia commanded 8 blades and attacked with a longsword, even a 19 dragons expert might be at a disadvantage. The 18 people in the first round advanced. Next, the Water Moon sect let them rest for a while. Those who needed to recover their chi did so, and those who needed to be treated were treated. During the 10 minutes of rest, the burly man and the burly man stared at Xianxia as if they wanted to eat him alive. Xianxia also noticed the gazes of the two of them that seemed to want to eat someone, but he couldn't be bothered to pay them any attention. He just quietly sat there with his eyes closed to rest. 10 minutes later, the second round began. This time, it was the same as the 9 Dragons group, with the judges drawing lots. Xianxia still sat there, waiting quietly. He would wait until it was his turn. Many people were injured in the first round, but the second round was still very intense. This time, Xianxia was drawn for the third time. Number 18, number 26. When the white-bearded elder from the Water Moon sect read out the 2 numbers, everyone's eyes lit up. On the 18th, it was Xianxia. Number 26 was the companion of the brawny man whose arms had been cut off by Xianxia. This was an interesting battle. Is it luck? Or Yixian glanced at the Water Moon sect elder, then stood up and jumped onto the stage. That man had the strength of 18 dragons. Among the remaining contestants, his strength was not considered too strong, so Yixian did not feel any pressure. The man had already jumped onto the stage. He held a blood-stained sword in his hand as he stared at Yixian. "Brat, I will make you pay the price," the man said fiercely. "Let's see if you have the ability." Yixian replied coldly. "Let's begin." The Water Moon sect elder shouted from the side. Before he could finish speaking, the man rushed up with his sword. His sword flashed as he attacked Yixian. He had the strength of 18 dragons, while Yixian only had the strength of 15 dragons. Moreover, the 8 Barren Wind formation had already been exposed. If he used it directly, it would not have much effect. Moreover, Yixian had a 20% increase in movement speed and a 30% increase in attack speed. Therefore, he preferred to fight with his sword. Sky Wind sword technique. When a man approached, Yixian immediately used the sky-level martial art that he was most proud of. The Sky Wind sword technique had just been used, and it blocked all of the man's attacks. The man's sword technique was only at 70%, while Yixian's Sky Wind sword technique was at 90%. Due to the difference in cultivation level, the gap between the two was not large. This brat is also using the Sky Wind sword technique at 90%. When did the Sky Wind sword technique become so popular? After seeing Yixian's sword technique, the Water Moon sect elder was very surprised. This was because there were 2 martial artists who had mastered the Sky Wind sword technique to 90% in the morning. At this moment, Yixian was already fighting with the man. The sound of metal clashing continued. The battle was very intense. "You do have some skills, but you dare to cut off my brother's arms. You deserve to die." The man's eyes flickered. He took out another heaven weapon and attacked with both swords. "What?" Yixian was shocked. He did not expect the man's sword technique to be so strange. He was actually using 2 swords. However, he could see that the man had changed his sword technique. It seemed that this was his trump card. The man was holding 2 heaven weapons. This made Yixian feel a little pressured, but he did not take it to heart. You can use 2 weapons, but I can't." Yixian's eyes widened. The Bahuang sword suddenly shattered, turning into 8 sharp blades that attacked. At the same time, a new heaven weapon longsword appeared in his right hand. The man definitely recognized this longsword. After all, this heaven weapon was the one his brother used. However, he did not have time to care about this now, because the 8 sharp blades were already attacking. Not only that, Yixian also rushed forward and attacked. Now, the man's face had sunk to the bottom. The killing formation of the 8 Barren Wind was extremely difficult to deal with. If it was just the killing formation of the 8 Barren Wind alone, the man could handle it. However, there was also Yixian. Even if he had 2 weapons, he would not be able to handle 2 simultaneous attacks. Clang, clang, clang. In less than 3 rounds, the man was defeated. Rip! With a crisp sound, the man's arms were separated from his body at the same time, cut off by 2 sharp blades. At the same time, the 6 sharp blades pierced into the man's legs, causing him to let out a heart-wrenching scream. The killing formation of the 8 Barren Wind on one hand and the Heavenly Wind Sword on the other, this was what Yixian was relying on. When he was still a divine core warrior, he was still unable to multitask, but he had finally succeeded some time ago. The man knelt down on the ground as he stared at Yixian in disbelief. The muscular man had the strength of 17 Dragon's Force, while he had the strength of 18 Dragon's Force. His overall strength was at least twice that of the muscular man. He never expected that he would still be defeated by Yixian, who had the strength of 15 Dragon's Force. "Yo, you have quite a lot of things in your storage ring. Thank you very much." Yixian took off the man's storage ring. At the same time, a Water Moon sect elder announced loudly, "Number 18 wins." Hearing this, Yixian slowly turned around and walked down from the arena. The man was still kneeling on the ground, unable to believe what had just happened. After that, 2 Water Moon sect disciples walked up to him and healed him. Chapter 363. 1 against 2. However, Yi Xian's strength was enough to make the other contestants fearful. They were wondering if they could deal with the attacks of the 8 blades while dealing with Yi Xian's 90% mastery of the Heavenly Wind Sword technique. The competition continued. After the brawny man and the man were both defeated, they also left. No one knew where they went. Soon, the second round was over and 9 people advanced. However, the third round's rules were out of everyone's expectations. The third round's rules have changed. 3 people will enter the ring together, and 1 person will advance. When the Water Moon Sect's elder finished speaking, everyone was shocked. 3 people entering the ring together? Yi Xian, who was resting with his eyes closed, could not help but open his eyes. 3-1, this was a little tricky. This time, the rules are a little different. You have to knock 2 opponents out of the ring to win. The Water Moon Sect's elder explained. The remaining 9 people's faces were gloomy. This meant that only 3 people could advance in this round. The Water Moon Sect's elder did not waste time. He directly began to draw lots and read out 3 numbers. After being stunned for a moment, the 3 martial artists jumped onto the stage and spread out to form a tripartite balance of forces. Begin, the Water Moon Sect's elder shouted. This time, the 3 of them stood in fear and did not move at all. Seeing this, the Water Moon Sect's white-bearded elder added, the time limit is 5 minutes. If there is no winner, all 3 of them will be eliminated. The 3 people in the ring trembled. One of them gritted his teeth and directly attacked the person on his left. When the person on his right saw this, he also charged at the same person with his sword. Although they did not speak, they reached an agreement. They would first send the 3rd person out of the ring, and then they would decide the winner. Not good. The 3rd cultivator's face changed. He did not expect to be a thorn in their eyes. This time, he had a fight with his life. In an instant, the 2 people rushed in front of him and attacked together. The 3rd cultivator only resisted for a few rounds before he was heavily injured by one of them. Then, he was kicked out of the ring. The 3 of them all had 19 dragons of strength, and if 2 of them worked together to fight against the 3rd person, the 3rd person would not be able to escape defeat. However, when the 3rd person was sent flying, the 2 cultivators attacked him again. The 3rd round of the 3-person competition was actually similar to the 2nd round. As long as they worked together to invite 1 person out of the arena, then it would be a one-on-one competition. In a one-on-one situation, the winner was usually decided within a minute. Sure enough, in less than half a minute, 1 person won and entered the top 3. In the 2nd round, they did not draw Yi Xian. However, just as the Water Moon Sect elder called out the 3 numbers, Yi Xian's 2 opponents actually gathered together and looked in his direction. Yi Xian immediately understood the other party's intentions. He thought to himself, Mother of Asterisk, they want to team up and kick me out of the arena. If that's the case, then don't blame me for being heartless. As he pondered, 2 beams of light shot out from his eyes. The second match was the same as the previous one. 2 of them reached a consensus to invite the 3rd person out, and then they would fight one-on-one. Soon, the 2nd round was also over. In that case, there was naturally no need to draw lots for the final round. It was Yi Xian's group of 3. You 3, get on the arena as well. The Water Moon Sect elder called out again. At this moment, the audience was also excited. This was because they all knew that this round was actually 2 against 1, and Yi Xian was that one. They wondered if Yi Xian would be able to withstand the combined attacks of the 2 of them. Yi Xian jumped onto the arena. He was already prepared to be attacked by the 2 of them. TSK. The cultivator on Yi Xian's left sneered, while the person on his right also had a half-smile on his face. Both of them had 19 dragons of strength, which was a full 4 dragons of strength higher than Yi Xian. However, there was a reason why they decided to eliminate Yi Xian first. First, Yi Xian wasn't injured, while the 2 of them were probably only at 70% of their original condition due to the previous battle. Second, they weren't confident that they could face Yi Xian's double attack alone. In fact, Yi Xian's advantage grew as the competition progressed. This was because he was always in peak condition. Thus, victory was already in sight for him in this round. He didn't care about these 2 crippled soldiers with 19 dragons of strength. Let's begin. The Water Moon Sect elder called out and retreated to the side. As his voice fell, the two of them looked at each other, then charged toward Xian with swords in hand. Haha. Xian cracked a smile. His aura instantly soared, and 4 more of the 6 flying dragons suddenly appeared. Beast King Rampage. Xian was now at the same level as the other 2, with 19 dragons of strength. Of course, this was only his strength. His true Qi realm was still at 15 dragons of strength. However, this was more than enough. With 19 dragons of strength, his speed had already surpassed that of 23 dragons of strength. He didn't need to use the slaughter array of 8 barren winds to deal with these 2. Kill! Xian's eyes shone brightly. He immediately condensed the Dragon Slayer's sword and charged forward. So fast. After witnessing Xian's speed, the 2 of them finally understood what kind of enemy they'd provoked. Just as one of them was about to retreat, Xian was already in front of him. Not good. The man's expression changed drastically. He stabbed his sword at the charging Xian, but it hit an afterimage. Whoosh! Xian swung the Dragon Slayer's sword, and one of his opponent's arms was thrown into the air. Then a cold light flashed, and his opponent's thigh was easily cut off. Losing his balance, he was cut by Xian's sword. Now both of his arms were cut off. Xian quickly removed his opponent's universe ring, then kicked him out of the arena. This scene happened too quickly. There wasn't much blood on the ground because it was too fast for everyone to react. Only the elder from the Water Moon Sect clearly saw Xian's skills. While the miserable man was still flying in the air, Xian quickly swept in front of the second person and used the same method to cripple his opponent. Plop! Plop! A few muffled sounds came from outside the arena. The 2 people's bodies and broken limbs fell outside the arena. Number 18 wins. The elder from the Water Moon Sect was stunned for a second, then immediately announced. In the previous 2 rounds, 1 person was first eliminated, then 2 people would fight one-on-one. However, in this round, Xian defeated 2 people by himself, and he even won. This was beyond everyone's expectations. Whoosh! In an instant, the 3 spectator stands were in an uproar. Who is this person wearing the smiley face mask? How can he be so powerful? I've never heard of this person. He can actually suddenly increase his strength by 4 dragon powers. This is simply a divine skill. This martial art definitely has side effects. After a while, his strength will definitely decrease. But there's still a final round. Maybe the 3 of them will go up together. Then, his strength will still be at 19 dragon powers. Let's see how the Water Moon Sect sets the rules. Chapter 364. First place. After defeating the 2 of them, Xian did not leave the arena. Instead, he turned to look at the Water Moon Sect elder, who was also the referee. Next up is the finals. The other 2, please come to the arena. The elder of the Water Moon Sect shouted. What? 3 of them? The victors of the first and second matches looked at each other. Immediately, the former shouted, Can you give us some time to recover? As soon as he said that, someone immediately cursed out loud. Giving them some time to recover? Wasn't that just stalling? As long as the time passed, Xian's strength would decrease. Moreover, there might be side effects. He might not be as strong as before. In that case, he would become a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Everyone's attention was on the Water Moon Sect elder. Now, it was up to the Water Moon Sect to decide. Begin immediately. If you don't come to the arena in 3 seconds, it will be considered as a forfeit. The Water Moon Sect elder said coldly. If you don't come to the arena in 3 seconds, it will be considered as a forfeit. When the 2 of them heard that, they swallowed hard and jumped onto the arena. Before they went up, they came up with a plan in their hearts. Stall. Xian was too strong. Even if they were at their peak, they might not be able to fight him. Therefore, they could only choose to stall for time. However, could they do it? Begin. The Water Moon Sect elder, who was acting as the referee, shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, Xian's 2 opponents flashed. However, they did not run toward Xian. Instead, they gathered together and glared at Xian. Do you think you'll be fine just because you 2 are together? Xian sneered in his heart. He summoned the Dragon Slayer's sword and suddenly rushed forward. The two of them had gloomy expressions and widened their eyes. Yixian was too fast. By the time they reacted, Yixian was already in front of them. After so many elimination rounds, the two of them had exhausted a lot of their stamina and true qi. Moreover, they were injured, so they were probably only at 70% of their strength. Yixian, on the other hand, was at the peak. Thus, this battle had no suspense at all. 2 seconds after Yixian arrived in front of the two of them were kicked out of the arena. As for their spatial rings, they fell into Yixian's hands. The battle only lasted for 2 seconds. Originally, the audience thought that this would be an intense battle, but they didn't expect the gap between them to be so obvious. A martial artist with 15 dragons of strength had crippled 2 martial artists with 19 dragons of strength in 2 seconds. This was simply inconceivable. Number 10 to 18 wins. The elder of the Water Moon sect came to his senses and announced loudly. Yixian was the champion of this martial arts conference. That 100-year-old dragon blood grass belonged to him. This person really has 15 dragon strength? Isn't this strength too fake? It's true. Before the penultimate battle, he had always been at 15 dragon strength. I wonder how old he is. If he is young, the 3 sects will definitely not let go of such a genius. You're thinking too much. I'm afraid he's over 60 years old. The onlookers were all discussing, including the higher-ups of the 3 sections. They were also interested in Yixian's age. After all, who would wear a smiley face mask for no reason? At this moment, Yixian suddenly turned his head and said, "Senior, can you give me my reward?" The elder of the Water Moon sect was startled when he heard this. Then he took out a 100-year-old dragon blood grass from his interspatial ring. "Thank you, Senior. Farewell." Yixian took the dragon blood grass and put it into the devouring space. Then he turned around and prepared to leave. "Please wait a moment, sir." The white-bearded elder stopped Yixian and said, "Sir, you don't have to leave in such a hurry. You are very safe in the Water Moon sect. The Water Moon sect is inviting you. If you agree, you can immediately become a protector of the Water Moon sect." This, Yixian hesitated, then shook his head and said, "I have other things to do now. Let me think about it. I will be back." His words sounded reasonable, but he had no intention of joining the Water Moon sect at all. He just didn't want the Water Moon sect to bother him. Come back. What a joke. Leaving now was the best plan. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left quickly without waiting for the white-bearded elder's reply. However, at the same time as he left, many people followed him. Obviously, these people were interested in his dragon blood grass. Although his strength had shocked these people, they all guessed that he would be weakened for a while. This person doesn't look like a stupid person. Why did he leave in such a hurry? Is he afraid that the Water Moon sect will harm him? The white-bearded elder was very confused. He then handed the second and third prizes to 2 disciples and followed him. After Yixian won the first place of the group of 19 dragons, he quickly left the Water Moon sect. During this time, he also devoured the 100-year-old dragon blood grass. Ding! The host has broken through to 18 dragon strength. This 100-year-old dragon blood grass actually increased his strength by 3 dragon strength. It's good stuff indeed. Again, Yixian said in his heart, then devoured all the things he obtained from the other competitors. Ding! The host has broken through to 19 dragon strength. The 2 consecutive notifications caused his strength to improve by leaps and bounds. The duration of Beast King Rampage had already passed, but now he had broken through to 19 dragon strength. What he planned to do next was to kill those martial artists who were chasing after him. These people all had their eyes on him. They deserved to die. After leaving the Water Moon sect, Yixian turned his head to take a look and discovered that there were at least a few dozen people chasing after him. Among them were the participants from before, as well as some spectators. Among them, there were even experts with over 20 dragon strength. These people were indeed targeting Yixian, but they didn't know that Yixian's Beast King Rampage had no side effects. If they dared to make a move, they would be pushing themselves to the gates of hell. Yixian's pace was not fast. Even a martial artist with 15 dragon strength could catch up to him. Taking advantage of the noontime, he rode Wei Jintian to explore the terrain. There was a small valley dozens of miles away from the Water Moon sect. It was very suitable for him. However, the people behind him couldn't wait that long. Attack! Suddenly, someone shouted. Then, four figures rushed out. Although Yi Xian only had one dragon bloodgrass on him, he'd seized quite a few people's universe rings during the martial arts competition. Moreover, human nature was greedy. Some of the people behind him weren't targeting him, but other people. You're finally here. Yi Xian smiled coldly and summoned the Bahuang sword. A great battle was about to begin. At the same time that the four of them were charging towards him, a battle suddenly broke out within that group of people. Chapter 365. Kill. Two of the four martial artists had 19 dragons of strength, while the other two had 18 dragons of strength. If the four of them worked together, they could even fight 20 or 21 dragons of strength. Unfortunately, their opponent was Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't need to use Beast King Rampage again to deal with people of this level. Die, brat. The four of them rushed in front of Yi Xian and attacked together. But in the next moment, their expressions froze. They realized that there were still 10 dragons flying around Yi Xian, one big one and 9 small ones. 19 dragons of strength. How is this possible? The effect is still there? The four of them looked grim, but since they had already attacked, there was no way they could stop. Kill. Yi Xian smiled calmly under his mask. He didn't dare to kill in Water Moon sect, but he didn't need to show mercy outside. Dragon slaying sword of desolation. The 3-meter-long sword appeared. With a wave of Yi Xian's hand, 2 heads flew into the air. The cold light swept again, and the heads of the other 2 flew into the air as well. In 1 second, he killed 4 people in a row. Yi Xian skillfully put away the 4 people's interspatial rings, devoured the items inside, and then charged back. What? Those 4 were killed in an instant? Some people noticed Yi Xian charging back and couldn't help but be stunned. All of a sudden, an ominous premonition rose in their hearts. However, riches were found in danger. Kill. These people didn't pay much attention to him. They joined forces with their companions and attacked the nearest person. There were more than 50 people following them. In an instant, 10 of them were killed, and the number was still decreasing. The elders of the 3 sects were also stunned. They had already expected this situation, and the main culprit behind this chaotic battle was Yi Xian with the smiley mask. Seeing Yi Xian charge into the crowd and kill in all directions, the elders finally understood why Yi Xian didn't stay in Water Moon sect to seek protection. It turned out that he had the same idea. You dare to covet my belongings? You deserve to die. Yi Xian's killing intent was obvious. The Bahuang sword suddenly broke apart and began to attack the people around it. At the same time, he also held a heaven artifact in his hand and killed anyone he saw. In less than 10 seconds, there were only a dozen or so people left out of the 50. This time, there were 21 dragons experts among the people who had followed them. However, Yi Xian's speed was enough to keep up with both of them. The remaining people had all obtained great wealth and fled at the first opportunity. Yi Xian and the other 2 did not give chase. At this moment, they were standing in a triangle formation. The ground was littered with corpses. The entire area had been dyed red, and the smell of blood was extremely pungent. Brat, you not leaving? A one-eyed old man asked coldly. Why should we leave? Yi Xian replied with a smile. Do you think that a martial artist who can kill 19 dragons can fight against us? The one-eyed old man asked again. You? Yi Xian frowned under his mask. It seemed that these 21 dragons experts were together. If it were before, he would have turned around and left immediately. However, now that he had broken through to 19 dragon strength, what reason did he have to be afraid? Brat, you better obediently hand over the martial art that increases your strength. Otherwise, you will die a horrible death, the other long-haired middle-aged man said. Yi Xian grinned. As expected, these 2 people were eyeing his Beast King Rampage. Only those with the Beast King bloodline could use Beast King Rampage. Although he could condense a Beast King bloodline seed now, would he be stupid enough to give it to these 2 strangers who wanted to kill him? A top-grade bloodline would naturally be left for his friends and family. When necessary, he would pay a good price to quickly increase his strength. However, he would not take it out so quickly. After all, every top-grade bloodline was very precious, and there was only one seed of each bloodline. Why are you unwilling? The one-eyed old man asked. You can have it, but you have to step over my dead body. Xian shook his head. Hearing this, the middle-aged man and the one-eyed old man looked at each other. They had asked Xian for it because they were afraid that Xian did not have it in his interspatial ring. If they killed Xian, they might not be able to get it. However, since Xian was so blind, they did not mind killing him. In that case, we won't hold back. The one-eyed old man shouted coldly and rushed toward Xian with his sword in hand. The middle-aged man did the same. Good timing. Xian roared and met them head-on. At 15 dragons, he was qualified to fight a 19-dragon martial artist. Now that he had 19 dragon strength, wouldn't it be easy for him to deal with two 21 dragons? However, Xian did not expect that these two martial artists were not ordinary people. Their speed was very fast. Heaven-class movement technique. Xian's eyes widened. The middle-aged man was slightly faster than him, but the old man was much faster, at least 20% faster. Just now, in order to win first place, he had used Beast King Rampage and consumed a large number of corpses. This time, however, he did not want to use it. If he used Beast King Rampage when facing difficulties, how could he play in the future? Clang, clang, clang. The sound of weapons clashing rang out continuously. This time, Xian did not use the 8 Baron Wind formation. Instead, he chose to fight head-on. If it was only one person, Xian could use 2 attacks to kill him. Unfortunately, there were 2 opponents. If he split the 8 Baron sword to deal with one person, it would be better to use the dragon slaying sword to deal with both of them. Back in the Water Moon sect, Xian had fought a 19 dragon strength expert alone. Now, however, he was facing 2 21 dragon martial artists who had heaven-class movement techniques. This scene also stunned the experts of the 3 sects who had followed them. Wasn't this strength a little too ridiculous? Boom, boom, boom. The sound of explosions rang out continuously in the battle circle. Xian fought 2 21 dragon martial artists alone. The battle was very intense. Fortunately, the heaven-class movement techniques that the 2 of them had learned were not very advanced. Otherwise, Xian would have been defeated. These 2 people's sword techniques are around 80%. If it were 90%, I would have to use Beast King Rampage. Xian thought as he fought. At the same time, the reason why he had not been defeated yet was not only because of the 20% increase in movement speed, but also because of the 8 Baron sword. The 8 Baron sword became stronger when facing a strong opponent. Xian used the 8 Baron sword with 19 dragon strength. The increase was much greater than the heaven-class weapons in the hands of these 2 people. It almost made up for the difference of 2 dragon strength. The 3 figures kept running and attacking, causing the ground to crack. This battle lasted for a full 3 minutes. It seems that if I don't use Beast King Rampage, it will be very difficult to kill them. Chapter 366. 100% Master Xian had already used Beast King's Rampage a few times. If he used it again, he would have to use up 100 Sacred Beast corpses with 10 dragons of strength each. That was a huge number. He did not know if he would need 100 Sacred Beast corpses with 20 dragons of strength each time he used Beast King's Rampage. He would save as much as he could. But now, it seemed like he had no other choice. If he did not kill these 2 people, he would not be able to leave. Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish. Xian's eyes flashed. Although it was a pity to waste one Beast King's Rampage, one should not forget that these 2 people might have heaven-level movement techniques. Switch. Xian widened his eyes and prepared to use Beast King's Rampage. With 19 dragons of strength, if he used Beast King's Rampage, his strength would increase to 25 dragons. He would definitely be able to kill the 2 people in front of him. However, at this moment, a series of system notifications rang in his mind. Ding! The proficiency of the Heavenly Wind Sword technique has increased by 10%. It is currently at 100% mastery. Its power has doubled. When he heard this notification, Yi Xian's expression froze. 100% mastery. Its power doubled? Haha, the heavens are helping me. Yi Xian suddenly roared, and his attacks instantly doubled. What? The one-eyed elder and the middle-aged man were shocked. Originally, they were evenly matched with Yi Xian, but now, Yi Xian's attacks suddenly became much stronger. 100% mastery. This person's Heavenly Wind Sword technique has already reached 100% mastery? Someone in the Water Moon sect camp exclaimed. What? 100% mastery. When this was said, the others widened their eyes in disbelief. The Heavenly Wind Sword technique was actually created by an expert from the Water Moon sect hundreds of years ago. After he created this martial art, he spent a few decades perfecting it. He was the first person to master the Heavenly Wind Sword technique to 100% mastery. However, after him, no one else was able to master this martial art to 100% mastery. Not a single one. If a martial art was trained to 100% mastery, its power would be greatly increased. None of the people present had practiced a single martial art to 100% mastery. From this, one could see how difficult it was. And now, it had actually appeared. Die, you two old thieves! Yi Xian's arrogance surged as he chased after the one-eyed old man and the middle-aged man. Twice the power, in addition to the 40% increase in sword skill power from the Sword Saint's bloodline, caused Yi Xian to become more and more courageous as he fought. The two of them were already thinking of retreating. They understood that the current Yi Xian was no longer someone that the two of them could fight together. Go! The one-eyed old man growled. What a joke! You think you can come and go as you please? Yi Xian sneered. Holding the dragon-slaying sword with both hands, he slashed at the two of them. Dragon-slaying sword of 8 desolation, dragon's judgment. Not good. The one-eyed old man reacted quickly and leaped away. Swish! A cold light flashed and instantly swept past the middle-aged man's body, splitting him in half. This move was Yi Xian's trump card. It was extremely powerful and was waiting for the moment when the opponent was escaping to take them by surprise. Seeing the middle-aged man fall, the one-eyed old man couldn't help but gulp and retreat at full speed. Yi Xian swallowed a few pills and quickly followed. Just now, they were able to fight evenly with Yi Xian when it was 2 against 1. Now that it was 1 against 1, the one-eyed old man wouldn't survive for long. 3 seconds later. No, the one-eyed old man howled at the sky. Immediately after, he felt a cold sensation in his throat as Yi Xian cut off his head. 2 experts with 21 dragons of strength had died at the hands of Yi Xian. This strength was enough to intimidate the experts of the 3 sects who followed them. Should we make a move? An elder of the Silver Moon sect asked in a low voice. Don't do that. This person is strong and must have a strong background. We can't risk making an enemy out of him. An elder immediately said. At this moment, there were more than 10 experts of the 3 sects here. Each of them had more than 20 dragons of strength. However, they were wary of Yi Xian's strength. After killing the one-eyed old man, Yi Xian glanced at the elders. Then, he took the interspatial rings of the 2 corpses and disappeared in front of the crowd. After leaving, Yi Xian summoned Wei Jintian and found a quiet place on top of a mountain. Ding! The host has broken through to 20 dragons of strength. There were many good things in the interspatial rings of the one-eyed old man and the middle-aged man. Yi Xian directly swallowed them and successfully broke through to 20 dragons of strength. As for the other things in the interspatial rings, naturally, Yi Xian was looking for a heaven-class body movement technique. Moreover, both of them had learned the same body movement technique. Ding! The host has learned the heaven-shattering body movement technique. The current level is 10%. It was undeniable that Yi Xian had struck gold this time. The heaven-shattering body movement technique was the best of the low-class heaven-class martial arts. The only drawback was that it would damage the meridians of the feet and require the use of expensive elixirs regularly. However, it was a perfect match for Yi Xian, who had the bloodline of the 1,000 Flowers. The Heavenly Wind Sword technique has the bloodline of the Sword Saint, so it's very fast to cultivate. I'm afraid I'll have to work harder on the heaven-shattering body movement technique. Yi Xian muttered. At this moment, the rock spirit suddenly jumped onto his leg and waved its two matchstick-sized arms. You want those heaven-class weapons? Okay, I'll give them all to you. Yi Xian nodded and poured out a large number of heaven-class weapons. There were more than 50 of them. If these heaven-class weapons were sold, they could be used to buy 2 heaven-class martial arts. However, if these were all given to Wei Zhentian, it should be able to increase his strength to the level of 20 dragons. This time, apart from these gains, Yi Xian also had quite a number of heaven-class martial arts. He stored these martial arts into the engulfing system one by one, and then proceeded with martial arts fusion. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. A series of notifications rang out. Yi Xian's expression became more and more helpless. He had failed to fuse a total of 10 heaven-class martial arts. Although he could still learn the martial arts that had failed, Yi Xian had already mastered the Heavenly Wind Sword technique to 100%, so there was no need for him to do so. In the following days, he practiced the heaven-shattering body movement technique. With his aptitude, he was able to cultivate the heaven-shattering body movement technique to 40% completion. At this time, 7 days had passed since the end of the martial arts conference. 40% completion of the heaven-class body movement technique has at least double my strength. With my strength of 20 dragons, I'm afraid that I can fight against an expert of 27 or 28 dragons. If I use Beast King's Rage, I can even kill 30 dragons. Yi Xian was bursting with confidence. Chapter 367. Silver Moon Thief. Today, Yi Xian wanted to go to a city to get some materials and refine heavenly artifacts and medicinal pills. He rode on Wei Zhentian and arrived at the largest city in the vicinity. It was already dark. However, just as he was about to land in the city, a group of people rushed out. Quick, catch him, don't let him get away. How dare he steal from the Silver Moon clan? He's courting death. This batch of goods is very valuable. We must get it back. Silver Moon Thief, don't even think about leaving. The city below was noisy and roaring. Yi Xian, who was riding on Wei Zhentian, heard everything clearly. Silver Moon Thief? After hearing this name, Yi Xian's body trembled. He had heard of this Silver Moon Thief before. This was the person who had formed a group of thieves called the Silver Moon Group. They specialized in stealing from the Silver Moon Clan, the Water Moon Clan, and the Broken Moon Clan. It was because of this Silver Moon Thief that he was misunderstood and chased by the manager of the Broken Moon Clan. This Silver Moon Thief is the leader of the Silver Moon Group. I've heard that he's very skilled in movement techniques and can come and go like the wind. Even experts with 30 dragon strength couldn't catch up to him. Why is he being chased by a group of people with over 10 dragon strength? Yi Xian thought to himself in surprise. Go, everyone go. This Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured by the clan leader a few days ago. He's only at 30% of his strength at most. Whoever kills him will be rewarded greatly. A manager of the Silver Moon Clan yelled. Hearing this, Yi Xian finally understood that the Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured. At this moment, he was also interested in this Silver Moon Thief. A Silver Moon Thief who had stolen a large amount of treasure from the 3 clans must be very rich. In this world, the strong were respected. Killing people and stealing treasures was common. Therefore, he was wondering if he should attack directly. However, considering that this place was close to a city, he decided to wait first. Silver Moon Thief, don't run. More than a dozen experts chased after the silver-clothed, silver-masked Silver Moon Thief, while Yi Xian watched from above. The 2 parties ran for a full 10 minutes before they finally stopped. No, to be precise, it was the Silver Moon Thief who stopped. Do you think you can escape and want to counterattack? Yi Xian, who was in the air, paused as he looked at the 2 parties. At this time, the Silver Moon Thief suddenly took out his sword and attacked the Silver Moon sect. Die! In the blink of an eye, more than 10 people surrounded the Silver Moon Thief and began to attack. However, These people were all taken care of by the Silver Moon Thief within 10 seconds. Not a single one of them. Didn't they say that the Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured? Why does he still have the combat power of 20 dragons? Seeing this, Yi was shocked. Silver Moon Thief, Silver Moon, Thief, Silver Moon, Thief, Silver Moon Thief, to dragon. Yi Xian, to be honest, Yi Xian thought to himself. At this moment, he was already behind a large tree, quietly observing the situation. While the Silver Moon Thief was fighting with the pursuers of the Silver Moon sect, he had quietly landed in a forest on the left side and used the bloodline of the Shadow Leopard to hide. Now that the Silver Moon Thief had killed all these people, it was time for him to make his move. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He loved to take advantage of this situation. However, just as he was about to make a move, another team suddenly charged over from not far away, causing him to involuntarily stop. There were 5 people in this team, and they were all wearing the Silver Moon sect's elder robes. They were very strong, and all of them were around 25 dragons. The leader was an expert with 27 dragons. An expert who came to capture the Silver Moon Thief? Yi Xian held himself back. 425 dragons, plus 127 dragons, he could still deal with them. However, this would mean that he would be going against the Silver Moon sect. This team moved extremely quickly and quickly arrived in front of the Silver Moon Thief. What was strange was that the Silver Moon Thief did not run away. Could it be that he knew that he could not escape? Silver Moon, you little thief, I've finally caught you. Just surrender and return the things of my Silver Moon sect. Perhaps the sect leader will spare your life. The 27 Dragon Elder, leading the group, shouted coldly. Haha, are you kidding? The Silver Moon Thief laughed. After hearing this voice, the 5 elders of the Silver Moon sect were startled. They seemed to have heard this voice somewhere before. Since you want to die, don't blame us for being merciless. The elder of the 27 dragons shouted coldly and rushed out. The 425 dragon experts behind him also quickly pounced towards the Silver Moon Thief. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared from the right side of the forest and quickly arrived in front of the Silver Moon Thief. Another accomplice? The 5 elders were all shocked because they saw that the speed of the black shadow was even faster than them. After the black shadow appeared, it blocked the path of the Silver Moon Thief. Then it charged forward. Around its body, there were 3 large flying dragons. 30 dragon power. Not good, retreat. The leading elder opened his eyes wide and shouted loudly. He did not expect that there would be an expert with 30 dragon power here. One should know that this was an expert on the same level as the Silver Moon sect leader. Even if the 5 of them joined forces, they would not be able to fight against one of his hands. Therefore, they could only retreat. You want to leave? The black shadow's eyes flickered. In an instant, he arrived in front of an elder. Then, he waved the long sword in his hand, and a head flew into the air. Instant kill. Elder Chun, an elder who had a good relationship with the dead, saw this, and his eyes immediately turned red. He shouted loudly, Bastard, I'll fight you to the death. However, there was a huge gap between 25 dragons and 30 dragons. Unless one was a genius, it was impossible to fight. Hiss! Another head flew up, and the second elder fell. The black shadow's strength was shocking. In the blink of an eye, he killed 2 elders, and the time was only 1 second. 2 people in 1 second. This was the difference. After another second, the other 2 elders with 25 dragon power were also killed by him. Now, only the one with 27 dragon power was left. The leading elder panicked and hurriedly shouted, Stop! I am the Silver Moon sect's great elder. You dare to kill me? However, the black shadow's sword did not hesitate at all and directly cut the elder's throat. Hiss! The last head flew into the air. This group of elders responsible for capturing the Silver Moon Thief was completely destroyed. What terrifying strength! If I use Beast King Rampage, I'm afraid I can only fight. It will be very difficult to kill him. Chapter 368. The true face. At this moment, the Silver Moon Thief started to clean up the battlefield. The black-clothed man took off his face cloth. He was an ordinary middle-aged man. "Father, you are really ruthless. He is the great elder of our Silver Moon sect." The Silver Moon thief said as he cleaned up the battlefield. "So what?" The middle-aged man looked at him coldly without any expression. "Father, you are really cold-blooded. The great elder has worked hard for our Silver Moon sect for so many years. You didn't even hesitate when you killed him." The Silver Moon thief also took off his face cloth. He was a young man. If the great elder of the 27 dragons suddenly had a momentary recovery and saw these two people, he would be so angry that he would die again. He was very familiar with the Silver Moon thief because he was the young sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. The black-clothed man was the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. In short, the great elder died in the hands of his own people. The great elder has been in charge of Spring Prosperity City for so many years. He has done many shady things. A few days ago, he attacked the delivery team of our Silver Moon sect and blamed it on our Silver Moon group. He deserved to die. The sect leader of the Silver Moon sect snorted. "Aren't we doing the same thing?" The Silver Moon thief kept all the interspatial rings in a cloth bag and walked over. "Stop talking nonsense. Dispose of these things as usual. I will return to the Silver Moon sect first." The sect leader of the Silver Moon sect said. He put on the black face cloth and left quickly. The Silver Moon thief weighed the interspatial rings in the cloth bag and put on the face cloth. He then ran towards the forest. Coincidentally, the forest in front of him was the one Xianxia was hiding in. The Silver Moon group was formed by the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. He is really good to set up such a trap. Xianxia heard the conversation between the two and felt that it was unbelievable. Who would have thought that the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect would form the famous Silver Moon group to kill the delivery team of the three sects? The sect leader even killed the great elder of his own sect. If this was spread, no one would believe it. But the truth was right in front of him. This was what Xianxia had heard with his own ears. Xianxia, who was hiding in the forest, saw the Silver Moon thief walking towards him. His eyes flickered. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Originally, he did not have the confidence to defeat the Silver Moon sect master, who had 30 dragon power. Now he had confidence. Previously, he had heard that the Silver Moon thief had been severely injured by the Silver Moon sect leader. This was definitely fake. It was just a show put on by the father and son. However, it was rumored that the Silver Moon thief was able to contend with a powerhouse with 30 dragon power. This should be true. However, what the Silver Moon thief had to face next was Xianxia. However, when the Silver Moon thief was only 100 meters away from Xianxia's hiding place, there was a sudden movement in the forest. Xianxia, who was hiding in the shadows, frowned. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. The Silver Moon sect leader must have discovered me. He must have pretended to leave and then ambushed me from behind. He immediately understood. The Silver Moon thief was actually bait. Beast King Rage Kill. He widened his eyes and immediately used his greatest trump card. The 20 dragon power in his body instantly soared to 27 dragon power. The 8 Desolation sword was already in his hand. He then slashed down fiercely. 8 Desolation sword, Dragon's Judgment. Die! The Silver Moon thief was already prepared. However, he did not expect Xianxia to have 27 dragon power. Moreover, the speed of his martial arts was extremely fast. Rip! Before he could react, he was cut in half by the Dragon's Judgment. Before the 2 halves of his body fell to the ground, the interspatial ring in his hand and the cloth bag with a large number of interspatial rings were taken away by Xianxia. Devour! Xianxia poured the contents of the interspatial ring into the devouring space and directly devoured them. Ding! The host has broken through to 25 dragon power. Although these things only increased his dragon power by 5, don't forget that he had just used Beast King Rage. Beast King Rage could increase his physique by 30%. You kill my son, I'll take your life. A black figure charged out from the forest. It was the Silver Moon sect leader. However, when he saw the number of dragons flying around Xianxia, he was stunned. There were a total of 6 dragons. 3 big, 3 small. 33 dragon power. Xianxia only had 30 dragon power, which was 3 dragon power higher than him. How can there be an expert with 33 dragon power in this area? This is impossible. The Silver Moon sect leader stopped in his tracks. This area was led by the Silver Moon sect, the Broken Moon sect, and the Water Moon sect. However, if these three sects were placed in the Luoxia region, they would not even be ranked. If the Luoxia region was a country, then the combined influence of these three sects would only be a small village. Moreover, it would be a very poor village. At this time, Yixian grinned and charged towards him. His speed was probably twice as fast as his. Fast. So fast. The Silver Moon sect leader instinctively raised his longsword to block, but in the next moment his face fell. Heavenly Wind Sword technique at 100% completion. The Silver Moon sect leader's heart turned cold, and despair appeared on his face. If such an expert wanted to kill him, there was no way he would be able to survive. Slash! A series of crisp sounds rang out in the forest, followed by the sound of a head falling to the ground. The Silver Moon sect leader, 30 dragon power, died. Yixian grinned. He was really lucky this time to encounter such a thing. There were many things in the Silver Moon sect leader's universe ring. Together with the 20 universe rings, he had broken through to 25 dragon power. Now, he wanted to see how many good things were in the Silver Moon sect leader's universe ring. Great, this is great. This feels so good. Yixian poured the things in the universe ring into the devouring space and devoured them. Ding! The host has broken through to 28 dragon power. When he heard the system's notification, he could not help but smile. After the Beast King rampage, he had reached 37 dragon power. If he added the heaven-shattering body technique and 20% of his movement speed, his speed would probably surpass that of an average 40 dragon power. It was a huge leap. This time, the Beast King rampage consumed 100 sacred beast corpses with 20 dragon power. Next time, it will be the sacred beast corpses with 30 dragon power. It's better to use the Beast King rampage less. Yixian was heartbroken. The number of sacred beast corpses required for the Beast King rampage would increase according to his cultivation level and the number of times he used it. Fortunately, he had gained a lot. Otherwise, he could not afford to use the Beast King rampage next time. Let's leave first. Chapter 369. Precious Tree Sect. The Silver Moon Society is a bandit group that instills fear in this area. There are countless treasures, ores, and heavenly items in the Silver Moon Thief and Sect Head storage rings. Yixian took out a large amount of useless ores and low-rank heavenly items. These were all food for Wei Zhentian. When Wei Zhentian saw these piles of food, he immediately jumped over excitedly and began to eat madly. What do you think? Follow me, all right? Yixian probed. Wei Zhentian quickly nodded when he heard this. After taking in the Sacred Beast Growth Plan, as long as he had enough resources, his speed of growth wouldn't be any slower than Yixian's. Apart from these items, there were naturally many other good items. The Silver Moon Sect Head had a large amount of martial arts in his storage ring. Among them, there were more than 30 heavenly rank sword methods. Immediately, Yixian began to integrate these heavenly rank martial arts. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. A series of system notifications rang out. Damn, isn't this success rate a bit too low? I've already integrated 25 times and used 50 different heavenly rank martial arts, but I haven't succeeded even once. Yixian was slightly helpless. He estimated that the success rate of martial arts integration wasn't even 5%. With his many years of experience in online games, he felt that martial arts integration was a bottomless pit. Although the Heavenly Windsword method was only a low-rank, heavenly rank martial arts, Yixian had already mastered it to 100%. Yixian thought that if he didn't obtain that kind of supreme rank martial arts, he'd better use the Heavenly Wind Sword method first. There were still many good items in the Silver Moon Sect Head storage ring. Yixian spent the rest of the time looking through them. A map? Yixian suddenly took out a simple and unadorned map. This map was drawn on a type of animal skin. It didn't look like a treasure map, but there was a cross on it, as well as some words. After reading it, Yixian also understood what this map was. This was indeed a treasure map, but there were countless similar maps. The cross on the map was the ruins of a sect called the Precious Tree Sect. So that's how it is. Someone discovered the ruins of the Precious Tree Sect that was destroyed 1,000 years ago, but didn't have the strength to go down and investigate. So they're using this method to gather large numbers of experts to explore. The location on the map was just a gathering place. No one knew which sect's entrance was. If they were interested, they could arrive on a specific date. The Precious Tree Sect, huh? Let me first investigate what kind of sect this is. With that thought in mind, Yixian left. Obviously, he was very interested in the ruins. Furthermore, there was only half a month left before the gathering, so he had to be prepared. He first flew to a city on Xianxia and inquired about the Precious Tree Sect. The Precious Tree Sect had been a famous sect 1,000 years ago. Everyone knew of it. Everyone knew that the sect had 3,000 disciples when it was at its peak. The sect head was an expert with 50 dragons of strength. Every disciple in the sect knew how to plant natural treasures. Almost all of the natural treasures in that area came from the sect. However, something happened later on that led to the sect's destruction. A rumor suddenly spread within the sect. It was rumored that the Precious Tree Sect had planted a rainbow tree. This tree would bear a rainbow fruit every 10 years. If someone consumed this rainbow fruit, they would be able to break through to 60 dragon strength. At that time, the strongest expert in that area only had 55 dragons of strength at most. Bearing a rainbow fruit every 10 years meant that an expert with 60 dragons of strength could be cultivated in 10 years. Therefore, the Precious Tree Sect became the target of many and was destroyed by the alliance of several sections. All of the senior executives of the sect had perished, and countless disciples had died. However, after the alliance of sects had destroyed the sect, they discovered that the rainbow tree didn't exist at all. Someone had purposely leaked the news that they had been used. However, since the matter had already happened, they went all the way and tore down the Precious Tree Sect. All of the resources within were plundered, and the Precious Tree Sect was destroyed as a result. As for the map that Yixian had obtained today, it was unknown who had leaked it. The words on the map pointed out that the rainbow tree really did exist. This was because the Precious Tree Sect that had been destroyed 1,000 years ago was just a cover. The rainbow tree was in another place, and the person who'd cultivated it was the sect head of the Precious Tree Sect. Yixian also doubted the authenticity of this. However, he reckoned that there would definitely be many people who would choose to go. If the rainbow tree really did exist, then it must have borne countless rainbow fruits. A single rainbow fruit was enough to drive everyone crazy. In addition, Yixian had already made his decision. He was going as well. This was because his support bloodline hadn't been raised to the peak yet. If he wanted to raise his myriad flower bloodline to the peak bloodline of the sacred tree of life, then he would need a 1,000-year-old plant. 1,000-year-old plants were exceedingly rare in this area. At most, 100-year-old plants would appear. He'd never heard of a 500-year-old plant. Therefore, this was Yixian's chance. If he could obtain a rainbow fruit, he could exchange it for the sacred tree of life bloodline, even if it was just a core. At that time, he'd be an unkillable cockroach. Of course, his goal this time was the rainbow fruit. If he could obtain a rainbow fruit, he would be able to break through to 60 dragon strength. At that time, when he used Beast King's Rampage, his strength would suddenly increase to 18 dragon strength. Adding on the 20% increase in movement speed, his strength would reach a terrifying level. If there really was a rainbow fruit, he had to obtain it. There was still half a month before the gathering time, but the gathering place was very far away. Therefore, he didn't delay and immediately had Wei Zhentian take him to the designated location. This flight lasted for half a month. The place where the Silver Moon Clan, Water Moon Clan, and Broken Moon Clan were at was too remote. The strongest person there only had 30 dragons of strength. Almost all the clans in this area have over 30 dragons of strength, and the strongest is 60 dragons of strength. How terrifying! Yixian had seen many things while he was traveling, such as killing people and stealing treasures. He'd even seen battles of 40 dragons of strength. At this time, he had already arrived at the designated location. Looking at the large group of people below him, his expression froze. There are quite a few clans in this area. There are 10 of them wearing the same uniform. Adding on the family clans and the scattered cultivators, there are over 500 people. Chapter 370. Invitation. Xian could guess from the strength of the people in this area that every one of them had at least 30 dragons of strength. Those sects had probably sent experts with 40 dragons of strength, while the leaders were likely to have more than 50 dragons of strength. The Rainbow Treasure Tree's influence was indeed great. So many experts had come. It seems that even if I don't get the rainbow fruit this time, just these people alone will be enough for me to break through many times. Xian thought to himself as he circled around and landed. Although it was broad daylight, Megatron's color was very bright. Coupled with the height, no one noticed him. What he needed to do now was to keep a low profile as possible. He could not attract the attention of any sect or faction, or else he might be killed by some expert. Thus, he had to pretend to be an expert. Immediately, he took out the smiling face mask from that day, changed into a set of hemp clothes, and walked over. Hey, another unaffiliated person has come. He looks very powerful. Maybe he has reached 40 dragons of strength. That's good. The stronger we unaffiliated people are, the more those sects and clans will fear us. If we band together, even those sects will have to stand aside. Come, let's go check it out. Xian had just arrived, but he had already attracted many people's attention. People like him who came alone were usually experts. Sir, are you alone? Suddenly, a deep voice entered Xian's ears. Xian turned around and saw 7 people walking towards him. What's the matter? Xian put on an arrogant expression. Sir, you must be here for the rainbow fruit. But as you can see, most of the people here have their own groups. If you are alone, I'm afraid you won't be able to compete with them. Why don't you join us? The leader of the group said. Oh, join you? Xian narrowed his eyes under the mask and asked, what are your strengths? Under such circumstances, most people wouldn't test the strength of others, because if one's strength was exposed, it would attract the attention of experts. When the leader heard this, he was stunned. He didn't want to invite Xian into the team, but he didn't know how strong Xian was. After thinking for a moment, he replied, I have the strength of 33 dragons. Of course, Xian wouldn't believe a single sentence. However, as soon as the leader finished speaking, a flying dragon appeared around him. It was indeed the power of 35 dragons. This was something that could not be concealed. Where are they? Xian turned his head and looked at the 6 people behind the man. Under the man's instructions, these people also revealed their respective realms. They were all between the 30th and 35th dragons. This was a team formed by freelancers, and their strength was not bad. If these people worked together, they might be able to fight against an expert with 40 dragon power. The reason why this group of people revealed their strength was because there was an invisible restraining force here. If someone destroyed this team, they would become prey in the eyes of stronger experts and then be killed. Therefore, battles rarely broke out here. Every person and every force was careful, afraid that they would be targeted by stronger experts. As for the large sects, they had the strength to massacre the other forces, but they did not do so. After all, they might encounter danger later, and they needed some cannon fodder. Now that the 7 people had revealed their strength, the leader asked again, Sir, what about you? Xian paused inwardly. He didn't really want to join. Moreover, he only had the strength of 28 dragons, so he might not be qualified to join. Sorry, I only have the strength of 28 dragons. Xian shook his head. 2 large flying dragons and 8 smaller flying dragons appeared around him. What? When the 7 people heard this, they were stunned. They didn't expect that they would be wrong. Xian's strength was beyond their expectations. He didn't even have the strength of 30 dragons. In an instant, the 7 of them had strange expressions on their faces. Their eyes were filled with disdain. What a joke. You dare to come here with only 28 dragons? You must be tired of living. A small-eyed man jumped out and pointed his sword at Xian. Brat, hand over your interspatial ring. and we'll spare your life." When the leader and the other 5 heard this, they shook their heads helplessly. They disdained to attack Xian, so they could only turn around and leave. After all, they didn't know each other. It was just a temporary team. No one in the team had the authority to control the small-eyed man's actions. "You want my interspatial ring?" Xian narrowed his eyes and looked at the small-eyed man. "That's right. Sir, I'm in a good mood today, so I don't want to kill you. Quickly take off your interspatial ring and give it to me. Otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death." The small-eyed man shouted coldly. He had revealed his strength just now. He was the weakest among the 7, with only 30 dragons of strength. Therefore, he was digging his own grave. "What if I don't give it to you?" Xian took out his Bahuang sword and waited for his opponent's response. "If you don't give it to me, then you can go to hell." The small-eyed man suddenly released a surge of vital energy and charged toward Xian. However, to everyone's surprise, the one who died was not Xian, but the small-eyed man. Rip! A series of crisp sounds rang out. The small-eyed man's head was thrown up, and blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, his interspatial ring fell into Xian's hands. "Pauper!" Xian cursed in his heart. He didn't expect the small-eyed man to be so poor. He didn't even have 1/10 of the wealth of the Silver Moon sect leader. However, it wasn't surprising. After all, he couldn't possibly carry everything with him. He didn't want others to take advantage of him when he died. At this time, the 6 people turned around and saw the small-eyed man's corpse. How is this possible? He was killed by 2 dragons? I remember that his movement technique was at least 60%. He's quite strong. How could he be killed in 1 hit? Looks like this masked man is quite capable. A few of them were discussing in private. However, the leader's expression was very unpleasant. He was the founder of this team. How could he not take revenge when he saw his own team member killed? "You killed him?" the leader asked. "He can kill me, but I can't kill him," Xian retorted. The leader narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "Although that's what you say, he's still my companion. Since you killed him, I naturally have to avenge him." Xian didn't say anything. The leader had 35 dragons of strength, which was quite strong. However, right after he said those words, a person walked out from the crowd. "Leader, let me do it." Chapter 371. The main character appears. All right. The leader nodded. He knew that there would not be much to gain. As the leader of the team, he naturally had to give his team members some benefits. That way, the team would not fall apart so easily. The long-haired man did not waste any more time. He immediately rushed towards Xian. 32 dragon strength. He was 4 dragons taller than Xian. Even the elites of the large sects had to be careful when facing the difference of 4 dragons. However, this long-haired man with 32 dragons could not even withstand one move from Xian. Although Xian only had 28 dragons, his heaven-shattering body technique had reached 60% mastery. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, his speed was 30% faster than the long-haired man's. 30% of his speed was enough to kill his opponent instantly. Another head flew up and rolled into the leader's hand. Xian had already taken the dead man's interspatial ring. Oh, there are quite a lot of things. Xian unceremoniously devoured the items in the interspatial ring. His strength had improved significantly. At this moment, he was almost 29 dragons. Seeing Xian's nonchalant attitude, the leader's eyes flickered. "I never thought that I would be wrong twice in a row. Now, I'll give you a chance. Join us, and I'll let bygones be bygones." "Join you? I'm afraid you're not qualified." Xian shook his head and gripped the Bahuang sword tightly. At the same time, he glanced around. There seemed to be quite a few people around them who had noticed this. "If that's the case, then you can go accompany them," the leader shouted angrily. He took out a large saber and charged towards Xian. 35 dragon strength, 28 dragon strength. There was a difference of 7 dragons between these 2 realms. Even the elites of the large sects in this area would not be able to overcome such a huge gap. The surrounding people were also guessing in their hearts. Which faction did Xian belong to? How could he be able to challenge someone of a higher realm? Some people even wondered if Yi Xian would kill this expert with 35 dragons of strength. However, most people believed that Yi Xian would not be able to withstand a single blow from his opponent. Clang! The leader slashed down with his saber, but Yi Xian blocked it with his Bahuang sword. How is this possible? The man in the lead felt that it was inconceivable. At this moment, he suddenly noticed something. There were actually more flying dragons circling around Yi Xian's body. 28 dragons, 2 big ones and 8 small ones. But now, there are only 10 of them, 3 big ones and 7 small ones. 37 dragons' strength, taller than him. In an instant, the leader was enlightened. Yi Xian must have used a martial art that increased his realm. However, this kind of martial arts could only increase 1 or 2 dragons. It was very rare to increase 3 dragons. As for increasing the strength of 9 dragons, it was unheard of. *T. I forgot about this completely. Forget it. Before the time is up, I should increase my strength to protect myself. Yi Xian's face darkened. He sent the saber flying with a swing of his sword. Immediately after, his figure flashed, and a head fell to the ground. Instant kill. After using Beast King's Rampage, his strength increased by 9 dragons, reaching 37 dragon strength. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, even if he did not use a martial art, he was comparable to a warrior with 45 dragons. Instant killing of 35 dragons was a piece of cake. After killing the leader, Yi Xian quickly put away the universe ring and devoured it. Ding! The host has broken through to 29 dragon strength. The notification sounded, and the number of flying dragons around Yi Xian increased by another dragon. 38 dragons. Everyone was dumbfounded. This kind of situation had already surpassed their understanding. Suddenly, 9 dragons appeared. After killing people, he even broke through in battle and increased by another dragon. This was too heaven-defying. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly swept out. In less than 2 seconds, the remaining 4 people in the team were all killed by him. Ding! The host has broken through to 30 dragon strength. Another notification sounded. Soon after, another flying dragon appeared. 39 dragons. *T. The sacred beast corpses are only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. Yi Xian was helpless. These people did not have many sacred beast corpses in their universe rings. Including his own, it was only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. Therefore, he could not waste this opportunity. Let's go. After killing 7 people in a row, Yi Xian turned and fled. He wanted to give the others a false impression that his Beast King's Rampage had side effects. Sure enough, after he left, many people immediately followed him. There were more than 30 of them. These people were all above 30 dragons. Among them, there was even an expert with 40 dragons leading the experts from his family. This group of people followed Yi Xian, which attracted the attention of the major forces. However, they did not care. After all, there were hundreds of people here. Those with less than 40 dragons were cannon fodder. More than 30 cannon fodder were nothing. However, what surprised them was that this group of people left for a long time, but not a single one of them returned. Not a single one. At the same time, there was one more person in the crowd. It was Yi Xian, who showed his true appearance. The 30 people who were chasing him just now were all killed by him. Not a single one was left. Even the expert with 40 dragon strength was the same. He also gained a lot, which allowed him to break through to 33 dragon strength. At this time, he was not afraid of anyone except for the few major forces led by 50 dragon strength experts. However, there was still a problem that troubled him. What a tragedy. The sacred beast corpses are only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. He shook his head helplessly. At this moment, everyone, suddenly, a figure descended from the sky. It was a white crane, and on the back of this white crane stood a masked man in white. Who? The hundreds of experts below all lifted their heads, their faces blank. Everyone, I am the one who sent out those beast skin maps. The mysterious man in white robes called out. Hearing those words, the crowd was stunned. Had the main character finally appeared? Just as the beast skin maps said, I've discovered another site of the precious tree sect from 1,000 years ago. However, because my strength is insufficient, I've summoned everyone to explore it together." The mysterious man in white robes paused after speaking, then continued. "All right, I'll cut to the chase and cut to the chase. I don't know if everyone is aware, but the land you're standing on was actually a dangerous place called Blackwind Cliff 1,000 years ago. The other location of the precious tree sect's cultivation is within Blackwind Cliff. In other words, it's right below your feet." After hearing the white-clothed, mysterious man's words, everyone present was shocked. So they were right above the site. What kind of place is Blackwind Cliff? Chapter 372. Going underground, Blackwind Cliff was a very dangerous place 1,000 years ago. There were many flying sacred beasts there, including a heavenly thunder condor with 60 dragon strength. The precious tree sect discovered that the soil here was suitable for planting, so they opened up a cave and started planting. The mysterious man in white explained. "Then how do you know about this? Have you seen the rainbow treasure tree?" Someone raised his head and asked loudly. "I don't need to tell you this, but you can start digging now. You'll know once you dig 500 meters down. 1,000 meters is a piece of cake for you." The mysterious man in white replied. 1,000 meters down? It was indeed a piece of cake for the people present. Some people immediately started digging with their bare hands. With 30 dragon strength, their skin was harder than steel. Digging a little bit of ground was a piece of cake. As for the soil they produced, they could store it in their storage rings. Many people believed the mysterious man in white's words and started to divide the area, then started digging. Yixian also ran far away to ensure that there was no one around before he started drilling. After digging for about 10 meters, he summoned Wei Zhentian. "Little Tian, give me an excavator." "No, give me a drill," Yixian ordered in his heart. Wei Zhentian had signed a slave contract with him. That was why Wei Zhentian was able to conjure up a fort. It was a transformer, and drilling 1,000 meters was a piece of cake for it. Yixian could have done it himself, but he needed to pay attention to whether anyone would ambush him. So he let Wei Zhentian do it for him. The distance of 500 meters was quickly covered. When Yixian received the message from Wei Zhentian in his heart, he drilled down again. He continued to dive, passing through a strange formation and arriving a large cave. 1,000 meters underground was originally a very dark place, but when Yixian went down, he saw a vast expanse of white light. The treasure-hunting deer bloodline in his body began to boil at this moment. This cave was actually filled with heavenly treasures. The light emitted by these heavenly treasures almost blinded Yixian's eyes. "Damn, it's actually real." Yixian was shocked. He immediately began to absorb these heavenly treasures into his devouring space. Just the amount of treasures he collected was enough to buy a sky-rank martial art. This cave was very large and crisscrossed, reminding Yixian of the deep-sea underground palace. Yixian immediately began to gather the treasures. Even if he didn't have the treasure-hunting deer bloodline, he could quickly gather these heavenly treasures because there were just too many of them. Treasure land. Treasure land indeed. However, when he began to collect the natural treasures, bursts of rumbling sounds came from within the mountain cave. It seemed that someone had encountered each other and started fighting. This plantation garden is supported by formations, but it's best to be careful in case it collapses. Yixian reminded himself in his heart. Although the 1,000-meter-tall soil couldn't kill him, it was still extremely painful. It would hurt a little, but it would be troublesome if it drowned these heavenly treasures. He began to gather the heavenly treasures quickly. In less than a minute, he had collected more than the 7-man team he had just killed. He had not come to the wrong place. What a rare opportunity. The caves were crisscrossed, and the terrain was very complicated. There were even paths leading downwards. Yixian gathered everything he saw along the way. Someone's here? A figure appeared in Yixian's sensing range. Independent martial artists like this who acted alone were generally not very strong. If he had encountered them before, he might have been afraid of them. But now, he was not afraid at all. He rushed towards that person. A kid who's lost contact with his family? Die. The person who collided with Yixian was a martial artist with 35 dragons of power. However, he was beheaded by Xian in just one move. A mere 35 dragons of power dares to show off in front of me. Xian put away his corpse and universe ring. There were not many things in this person's universe ring, but it was better than nothing. He continued to gather. He did see quite a few lone martial artists along the way. They were all around 35 dragons of power and weren't very strong. At most, he'd only met 3 people. A team of 10? Xian narrowed his eyes. Within his range of perception, there was a team of 10 people. He didn't know if they were disciples of a sect or some family. Of course, it could also be a team formed by a rogue martial artist. After some thought, he decided to give up. If he met a 40 dragons of power cultivator, he would have to use Beast King's Rampage, although he could kill them in his current state. He could only use it once more. If he wasted it here, what would he use to compete with those sects when he encountered the rainbow fruit later? In order to not lose the big picture, he decided to give up on it. The second plantation of the Precious Tree sect was simply too tempting. All 4 walls were covered in heavenly treasures, making Xian very happy to harvest them. However, these plants didn't have strong life force, so they would only live for 100 years at most. They would wither after that. However, Xian wasn't disappointed. The chi of heaven and earth in this cultivation dwelling is no less than that on land. It looks like there is indeed a plant with strong life force absorbing the nutrients in the ground to sustain the survival of so many heavenly treasures. Xian's speed increased as he thought. This was because there might be a rainbow treasure tree in this cultivation dwelling that could create countless experts of 60 dragons of strength. As he collected, he devoured at the same time. Unknowingly, his cultivation had improved by another step, reaching 34 dragons of power. He didn't relax as he continued to gather heavenly treasures and make trouble for lone martial artists. Only in this way would he have the right to face the various sects in the end. Time passed bit by bit. At this point, half an hour had passed since Xian had entered the ground. In this half an hour, his realm had increased once again, reaching 35 dragon strength. If he used Beast King's Rampage, he could reach 45 dragon strength. Then, with the addition of 20% of dexterity, his speed would be equivalent to 55 dragon strength. However, this wasn't enough. After all, the movement techniques of those experts had likely reached an extremely profound level. At this moment, Xian found another tunnel that led to the bottom. This was his 6th time going down. He estimated that he was already around 1,500 meters underground. It was at this moment. His brow suddenly furrowed as he saw a purplish-black fog appear in front of him. Chapter 373. The Hunted Woman. Sure enough, this kind of plantation is dangerous. Xian's heart trembled. Then, he suddenly thought of a problem. Why didn't the mysterious man in white who distributed the animal skin map collect these heaven and earth treasures first? Could it be that he didn't care for these things? Impossible, because if all of these heavenly materials and earthly treasures were added together, it would be an astronomical figure. There was something fishy going on. Xian narrowed his eyes. Then, he took out a worthless heaven and earth treasure from the devouring space and threw it over. This heaven and earth treasure withered in less than a second after being thrown into the poisonous fog. It is indeed a poisonous mist. I wonder if my myriad flower bloodline can withstand it. Xian thought for a moment, then took out the body of one of the people he had just killed and threw it over. Although this was very inhumane, this was the only way to deal with the situation. This corpse was a martial artist with 30 dragon strength when he was alive. He had a strong physique and was naturally resistant to poison. 3 minutes later, the corpse began to bleed from his 7 orifices. His skin began to fester and turn into a puddle of blood. It took him about 5 minutes to turn into a pool of blood. How terrifying. Even the bones have melted. Xian's heart trembled as he swallowed his saliva. That said, his constitution was stronger than the corpse's, and he had true energy to defend himself. He also had the myriad flowers bloodline, so he should be able to last 2 or 3 times as long. However, this was not enough. He had obtained quite a number of precious antidotes from the people he had killed. To be safe, he had also exchanged for a poison avoidance pearl from the devouring space. It was a pity that he didn't have any heaven-grade treasures. He also needed to refine a heaven-grade detoxification pill. He didn't have the required materials. Therefore, they could only go down and take a look. The stronger one was, the more one feared death. Right now, Yixian was still very cautious. He first entered the poisonous fog and stayed in it for a while to observe the situation. Xianxia can't completely resist the poisonous fog. Forget it, I'll just expose myself to the poisonous fog and see what happens. Yixian withdrew his Xianxia. Soon after, he heard the system notification. Ding! The host has been poisoned. Beginning detoxification. Hearing this, Yixian's eyes lit up. The 10,000 flower bloodline was effective. However, this unknown poisonous fog was too high level, and the 10,000 flower bloodline's detoxification effect was very slow. However, Yixian was not in a hurry. He let the others go down first to explore the path. Although they would be the first to take the item, it would be safer. Entering this kind of place, it wasn't about who could walk faster, but who was stronger and who could come out alive. 20 minutes later, the 10,000 flower bloodline was finally detoxified. The successful detoxification meant that Yixian was immune to the poison. His blood was the antidote. All right, I'm not afraid of this poisonous fog now. Yixian thought to himself and then began to walk down. During this period of time, he also heard a lot of movements, both big and small, coming from below. It seemed that those powers had begun to fight. I wonder who will be able to last until the end. As Yixian walked down, he also came across a lot of heaven and earth treasures. However, these heaven and earth treasures were all poisonous. Some poisonous things were highly toxic when swallowed, and some would be poisoned when touched. To be safe, Yixian did not pick them. After all, his support bloodline was only at the high level. He walked for about 50 meters and came to a large open space about the size of a basketball court. However, as soon as he arrived, a series of hurried footsteps entered his ears. It came from another passage. 8 people. Yixian frowned and hid in a corner. This level was filled with poisonous fog. The heaven and earth treasures were also of the dark type, so it was a little dark. Coincidentally, he could use the shadow leopard bloodline to hide. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of footsteps approached quickly. Soon, a figure rushed out from another passage. It was a woman. Then, another 7 people came out. Miss Xia, stop running. A deep voice was heard. It was the bald man who was the leader of the 7 people. At this moment, the woman in front suddenly stopped and turned around. Then a weak female voice was heard. What do you want? Miss Xia, your question is, we've killed your Xia family members. If you successfully escape, you'll definitely find trouble with us. So, we can only shut you up forever. The bald man's voice was heard again. You're no match for me, the woman said coldly. The bald man smiled and shook his head. Miss Xia, you still don't understand the situation. Even if the 7 of us work together, we're no match for you. However, we can stop you from taking the antidote. As long as you're poisoned, your combat power will be greatly reduced. Then, it'll be easy for us to kill you. Then you can try, the woman said in a low voice. Suddenly, she took out an antidote from her interspatial ring and was about to put it into her mouth. However, at this moment, more than 10 attacks suddenly appeared, forcing her to stop her movements. She did not even have time to take the antidote. It was obvious how fierce the 7 people's attacks were. In an instant, the woman and the 7 people were fighting. Meanwhile, Yixian, who was hiding in the corner, witnessed this battle. She looks about 20 years old, but she actually has 40 dragons of power. Looks like she's a disciple of some large faction. Yixian saw the woman's realm at a glance. As for the other 7 people, their strength was between 36 and 38 dragons. Although their realms were not as high as the woman's, they were very experienced. Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers, so the woman could not fight back at all. The woman retreated as she fought. She really wanted to take an antidote, but because of the restrictions of these people, she could not do so. She was very regretful. Why did she not take one when she was running away? Only now did she remember. She was still too inexperienced. The two sides fought, and the light from their swords illuminated the entire cave. Fortunately, Yi Xian was in the corner, or else he would have been exposed. At this moment, the woman's blood and qi suddenly surged, and she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This flaw was caught by the 7 people, and they immediately attacked with all their strength. Bang! The woman was a little slower to block, and a sword ray pierced her shoulder, sending her flying. It seemed that she had been poisoned. Miss Xia, give up. Don't worry, I'll give you a quick death. The bald man slowly walked forward. Oomph! The woman snorted coldly. She quickly thought in her mind to see if there was a way out. While she was thinking, the bald man suddenly attacked, and an extremely sharp slash swept towards the woman. Bang! The woman easily blocked it. Miss Xia, are you still not giving up? Fine, let's attack together and kill her, the bald man ordered. Chapter 374. Xia family bam, bam, bam. Although the woman had been poisoned, she could still hold on for a while. However, her expression darkened. She could hold on for a while, but the poison was quickly invading her body. How long could she hold on? Bam, bam, bam. The woman continued to block and retreat. She saw that there was a path leading to the top. As long as she could get to the top, she might be able to survive. However, her actions made the poison invade her body even faster. The woman could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Her ears were already bleeding, and her skin was turning purplish-black. She can't hold on for much longer. Attack with all your might, the bald man shouted. Bam, bam, bam. Loud noises echoed in the cave. Fortunately, there was a formation supporting the cave. Otherwise, it might really collapse. The shockwaves from the collision of true energy illuminated the surroundings. The bald man and the others knew that she was trying to escape, so they chased her to another place. At this moment, the woman was almost forced into a corner. She was at the end of her rope. In a few more seconds, she might not even be able to stand properly. However, at this moment, the shockwaves from the collision of true energy illuminated the corner. The bald man's eyes narrowed, and his entire body trembled. He saw that there was actually a person standing in the corner. He was so scared that he had goosebumps. There was actually a person standing in the corner with a cold expression like a ghost, and he did not notice it. There's someone. One of the people behind the bald man also noticed it. What? The other 5 people were stunned. One of them swept a ray of sword light towards the corner. Bam! The ray of sword light was defeated. Immediately after, Yi Xian, who had been hiding for a long time, walked out from the corner. The 7 people stopped attacking and looked at Yi Xian in shock. This corner was not connected to any passageway. In other words, Yi Xian had been hiding here for a long time. Heavens! There was a person hiding in the corner, and they did not notice it. Was this person a ghost? The 7 people had goosebumps all over their bodies. Suddenly, shio! Several rays of cold light swept out from the corner. The speed was beyond their reaction time. Rip! 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 A few crisp sounds rang out. Then, the bald man saw the heads of his brothers fall to the ground. In the blink of an eye, 4 people had died. Not good. When the bald man heard the whistling sounds, he hurriedly raised his hand to block. However, in the next moment, his eyes widened. This was because in front of him, there was actually a figure that was very close. Hiss! Another crisp sound rang out. The bald man lowered his head and found that a long sword had pierced through his chest. His heart had already been pierced through. As he fell backwards, he saw the heads of his last 2 brothers slowly falling to the ground. Plop! 7 people, 7 corpses. Yi Xian took advantage of the dark environment to kill 7 people effortlessly. However, after the 7 corpses fell to the ground, a muffled sound came from behind Yi Xian. He turned his head in surprise and found that the woman had also collapsed. Is the poison too deep? Yi Xian muttered. He walked over and collected her interspatial ring and weapon. Now he had 2 choices. 1. Watch the woman turn into a pool of blood. 2. Save her. After thinking for a while, Yi Xian still felt that he should save her. This was because he found the woman pleasing to the eye. She also had a peerless appearance. He did not want such a beauty to die. Forget it. I'll be the good guy this time. Xian cut his wrist. In an instant, blood gushed out. He dripped his blood into the woman's mouth. Now, he was immune to the poisonous fog. His blood was the best antidote. A second later, his wrist was restored. At the same time, the woman's eyes trembled. Then, she opened her eyes. The poison in your body has been temporarily removed. Follow this path, and your life will not be in danger. Xian turned around and showed the woman his handsome back. He slowly walked over to collect the 7 corpses and their belongings. My interspatial ring. When the woman woke up, she found that the 2 interspatial rings on her left and right hands were gone. She immediately murmured, "I saved your life. It's not too much to ask for a reward. You can go now," Xian said. He cleaned up the battlefield and left. His blood was very effective in detoxifying the poison. After the woman drank it, the poison in her body was removed in the blink of an eye. She frowned as she got up. After thinking for a while, she followed him. TSK, I've made a fortune again. After leaving, Xian laughed in his heart. Ding! The host has broken through to 37 dragons of power. This time, he had improved by another 2 dragons of power. How satisfying. At this moment, Xian, who was wandering around, suddenly frowned. He turned around and shouted into the dark tunnel, "Why are you following me?" As expected, as soon as he finished speaking, a figure walked out from the shadows. "You took my interspatial ring." The person who followed him was, of course, Miss Xia, who was saved by Xian. "Don't tell me you think that your interspatial ring is more valuable than your life? Turn around now and go back up. It's not too late." Xian kindly reminded her. "There's something very important in the interspatial ring." Miss Xia replied, "Something very important?" Xian sank his consciousness into the devouring space and poured the useless items back into the woman's interspatial ring. He said, "I've taken all the valuable items. I'll return these to you. There's an antidote and a weapon inside." After tossing the interspatial ring to the woman, he left again. The woman took the interspatial ring. She was shocked. After thinking for a while, she decided to follow him again. "I've returned the items to you. Why are you still following me? Do you really think that I won't dare to kill you?" Xian sensed that the person behind him was following him again. He immediately turned around and shouted angrily. The woman paused again. Then, she said, "I've been separated from my family. If you've been separated, then go back up and wait," Xian replied coldly. "No, their antidotes are all with me. Without them, they won't be able to hold on for long. If you lead me to them, I'll give you a reward." The woman shook her head. "Won't they look for you when they've run out of antidotes? Besides, you're not dead. Can't you look for them yourself?" Xian asked again. "There aren't many treasures in the poisonous fog. If I go back, I'll waste a lot of time. I need to go down to the 3rd floor immediately to compete with the other factions for the rainbow fruit." The woman hesitated for a moment before replying. "The 3rd floor, the rainbow fruit." Xian narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Chapter 375. Sneak attack. I can help you find them, but the price won't be low. Xian narrowed his eyes. "How many do you want?" The woman asked. "I want sacred beast corpses, 100 sacred beast corpses with 50 dragon power. Of course, the higher the realm, the smaller the amount." Xian directly stated the price. Sacred beast corpses? This request was difficult for the woman, but it also shocked her. Why would he want sacred beast corpses? 100 sacred beast corpses with 50 dragon power. Perhaps no one had them, but there might be corpses with 50 dragon power and above. "My father has some 50 dragon corpses. What do you want them for?" The woman asked curiously. "As long as you have them, it's fine. As for why I want them, there's no need for me to tell you. In addition, I have another condition. Tell me what's on the 3rd floor." Xian said coldly. The woman paused, then said, "There's no harm in telling you. Long before we came, we received news that the rainbow treasure tree is on the 3rd floor of this plantation. Moreover, there are many dangers along the way. Even experts with 50 dragon power can fall. Since you know, why don't you prepare more antidotes?" Xian asked in surprise. That mysterious person didn't tell us that the second floor is a poisonous fog, the woman replied. So he's using these people to open the way and weaken our strength. Yixian's heart sank. It seemed that mysterious person in white didn't have good intentions. Moreover, even experts with 50 dragon power could fall. This wasn't a normal level of danger. However, the more dangerous the place, the greater the rewards. Tell me the situation of the experts of this trip. Yixian continued. I am Xie family Xie Hai's daughter, Xie Yu. My Xie family has 3 experts with 50 dragon power. In addition, there are 3 sects with 50 dragon power experts, adding up to 9 people. The woman replied. 3 people, adding up to 9 people, that was 12 experts with 50 dragon power. This trip was indeed unusual. Your Xie family can actually contend with the sects? Yixian said in surprise. That's right. My Xie clan is the most powerful clan in this area. We are on par with the other 3 major sections. Xie Yu nodded. If that's the case, how did you get separated from the others? Someone else asked. Xie Yu replied. When we came down, we met the firestorm way of the 3 great sects. Hearing this, Yixian also understood that it was the result of a fight between the 2 factions. All right, I can escort you. As for whether or not we can find the Xie family, that will depend on luck. If you really find it, I hope you won't turn against me. Yixian's eyes flashed with killing intent. Although he saved Xie Yu, it didn't mean that he wouldn't kill a woman. The reason why he made this deal with Xie Yu was because he could only use Beast King's rampage once more. This time, he would need 100 holy beast corpses with 40 dragon strength. Next time, he might need 50 dragon strength, so he had to be prepared in advance. If he succeeded, then he would be able to use Beast King's rampage twice in this operation. This was very important. The reason why Xie Yu found Yixian was because she had met the experts of the Firestorm Way and fought them. After that, she encountered the 7 people. Her body was full of injuries, and she didn't have much qi in her body, so she wanted to find a bodyguard just in case. Although she didn't know Yixian, he had saved her life. He didn't take advantage of her when she was in danger, so she found Yixian. After the 2 reached an agreement, they began to move quickly to find the whereabouts of the Xie family. What you gave me just now, was it your blood? While searching, Xie Yu couldn't help but ask. That's right. I am immune to poison. This poisonous fog has no effect on me. Yixian casually replied. Xie Yu suddenly realized why Yixian didn't take a single antidote along the way. So this was the reason. The second floor of the cave was filled with poisonous fog. If one didn't have enough high-level antidotes, they would probably die here. Moreover, the deeper they went, the more dangerous it was. By now, Yixian had already seen many poisonous creatures, such as poisonous scorpions, poisonous centipedes, and poisonous snakes. They were all hiding in dark corners, waiting for an opportunity to attack martial artists who passed by. If Xie Yu was allowed to go down alone, he would probably die halfway. However, Yixian had the ability to sense things. As long as it was a living thing, he could sense it even if it was motionless. After all, in addition to the supersonic bat bloodline, he also had the Beast King bloodline. Fortunately, the strength of these poisonous creatures was not bad. They were all above 30 dragons. Their Saint Beast souls were a large amount of experience for Yixian. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to test the poisonous plants on the way, so he could only pass by in a hurry. Yixian brought Xie Yu and walked all the way down. After about 2,000 meters, they finally heard a trace of movement. Although there were many sounds of fighting before, they were very far away. This time it was nearby. Wait! Xie Yu suddenly called out to Yixian from behind. What's wrong? Yixian asked curiously. These aren't people from my Xie family. They're from a Yang family under the Firestorm Way, Xie Yu explained. Oh! Yixian was a little surprised, but he didn't plan to go forward. He turned around and asked, how strong is the Yang family? The leader has 42 dragon strength. The rest are between 38 and 40 dragons, Xie Yu replied. But when we came down, there was only one path, and they blocked it. Do you want to wait for them to leave, or? Yixian tried to ask. Xie Yu hesitated. He guessed that the Xie family's team had already gone down. If they didn't hurry, the Xie family's lives would be in danger. If you help me stop the expert with 42 dragon strength, I can take care of the rest. Of course, if you want to wait, you can. Fangzheng, your CF family might encounter others along the way. When the time comes, you won't lack antidotes. Yixian decided to leave the choice to Xiaoyu. Are you confident? Xiaoyu asked softly. There's a total of 8 people down there. If it's a sneak attack, I'll only need 3 seconds to take care of the other 7, Yixian said slowly. Although he only had 37 dragon strength, if he didn't count his movement techniques, he could compete with a 45 dragon strength expert in speed. If he used Beast King Rampage, he could even fight a 55 dragon strength expert. Then, I'll help you stop the leader. Xiaoyu nodded. Then follow behind me. Don't make a sound. I'll sneak attack first. Yixian said as he continued to go deeper. They were only a few dozen meters away from the Yang family's team. As long as they were careful, they could succeed in a sneak attack. Chapter 376. Ambush Patriarch. The road ahead seems to be even more dangerous. Are we really going to continue? Nonsense, we've lost a few experts. How could we give up halfway? If we can obtain a 7-colored fruit, then our Yang family will be able to dominate the 4 great forces and become the ruler of this region. However, we don't have enough detoxification pills, and the poisonous fog ahead is even stronger. I'm afraid that the detoxification pills won't last until we find the rainbow fruit. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. If you're afraid of death, then go up yourself. In a wide open space, the 8 members of the Yang family sat in a corner to rest and heal. However, what they did not notice was that 8 sharp blades had quietly approached them. The 8 sharp blades moved slowly, not making the slightest sound. When they got close to the Yang family team, they suddenly exploded. Be careful, the patriarch of the Yang family shouted, but he was still a step too late. 4 heads flew into the air, including an expert with 40 dragon power. Yixian used his powerful senses to control the 8 blades to launch a sneak attack. He didn't expect things to be so easy. His various methods could be said to be perfect. Go! After the successful sneak attack, Yixian shouted coldly. Then, he and Xiaoyu rushed out of the tunnel and attacked the remaining 4 people. The patriarch of the Yang family slashed out a slash, but it was easily defeated by Xiaoyu. However, he also understood who the newcomer was. Xiaoyu, it's you? The Yang family patriarch exclaimed in shock. Xiaoyu did not waste words and directly charged over. Although there was a difference of 2 dragons, Xiaoyu came from one of the 4 major powers, the CF family. It should not be a problem for him to hold back the expert with 42 dragons. As for the remaining 3, they would be left to Yixian. Yixian shot forward like an arrow, controlling the 8 sharp blades to attack, while wielding a heaven artifact to attack madly. 1 second. It only took him a second to kill the remaining 3 people. Then, all 7 interspatial rings fell into his hands. Ding! Host has broken through to 38 dragons' power. After hearing the system notification, Yixian's fighting spirit soared. He turned around and charged towards the Yang family head. Damn it! Don't even think about leaving this place alive. The patriarch of the Yang family was flustered and exasperated. Suddenly, a powerful true qi gushed out from his body. Burning your true qi? Xiaoyu was stunned. Burning true qi was a very common martial art. It was to temporarily increase one's strength at the cost of one's realm. As for the burned true qi, it would need to be cultivated again. If he was not careful, he could lose 5 or even 10 dragons of strength. The Yang family patriarch forcefully increased his strength from 42 dragons to 45 dragons, greatly increasing his strength. However, this was of no use. Xiaoyu has 40 dragon strength. Facing 45 dragons, she can't do anything. However, Yixian had already broken through to 38 dragons, and with the help of the mysterious 8 blades, he could fight his opponent even if he didn't use Beast King Rampage. Get out of the way, I'll deal with him. Yixian reminded and attacked with all his might. 38 dragons against 45 dragons. Even in the outside world, it was rare to see such a scene because under normal circumstances, the former would be instantly killed. But now Xiaoyu saw it. So strong, challenging 7 dragons. Who is he? Xianxia couldn't help but be interested in Yi Xian's identity. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of weapons clashing echoed between the stone walls. Yi Xian had the 8 Barren Wind Killing Array in one hand and the Heavenly Wind Sword Technique in the other. He was evenly matched with the patriarch of the Yang family. However, Yi Xian's speed of growth was beyond the expectations of the 2 people present. Ding! The proficiency of the Heaven Crippling Body Technique has increased. Current proficiency is 70%. Although the Heaven Crippling Body Technique was not like the Heavenly Wind Sword Technique, which had the Sword Saint Bloodline's comprehension, Yi Xian's aptitude was not bad, and his cultivation speed was also extraordinary. His speed soared, bringing great pressure to the patriarch of the Yang family. How can this kid be so fast? This is impossible. The patriarch of the Yang family broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, he was making a decision in his heart. He was thinking as he dealt with Yi Xian's attacks. Finally, he made a decision. Run. Even after burning his vital energy, he could not do anything to Yi Xian. Now he was at a disadvantage. If they continued fighting, he would be the one to die. Therefore, he could only run. Yi Xian understood the patriarch of the Yang family's intentions. He immediately controlled the 8 sharp blades to seal off the patriarch's path of retreat. 8 Barren Wind Killing Array, first layer. Just now, the 8 sharp blades were used to stab, which was faster. To seal off the patriarch's path of retreat, it was better to use the first layer. The patriarch of the Yang family had been burning his vital energy for some time. Now that he could not retreat, he could only continue to block Yi Xian's attacks. Half a minute after they exchanged blows, an unforeseen event caused the patriarch of the Yang family to fall into an irrecoverable situation. One of his wyverns suddenly disappeared. 44 dragons of strength. Haha, you're finished. Yi Xian shot forward and increased his attacks. The patriarch of the Yang family's face was gloomy. With 45 dragons of strength, he could barely block Yi Xian's dual attacks. Now that he had fallen to 44 dragons of strength, he was not far from death. 3 seconds later, he finally could not block anymore. A sharp blade cut into his thigh. The wound was so deep that his bone could be seen, greatly reducing his speed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian did not hesitate to kill. Rip! A crisp sound entered Xiaoyu's ears. Immediately after, she saw a head fly into the air. It was the patriarch of the Yang family. Plop! The head fell to the ground and rolled into a corner. He's finally dead. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Challenging 7 dragons seemed to be his limit. If he really encountered an expert with 45 dragons of strength, he would probably need to put in a lot of effort. Yi Xian walked over and put away the patriarch of the Yang family's belongings. As the patriarch of the Yang family, there were naturally good things in his universe ring. Moreover, this time, the Yang family's team had collected all the natural treasures and left them with him. This way, Yi Xian benefited from it. Ding! The host has broken through to 39 dragons of strength. Yi Xian had broken through again. Xiaoyu said in surprise when she saw Yi Xian suddenly have another wyvern. Haven't you seen someone break through in the middle of a battle? Yi Xian casually replied. Xiaoyu was speechless. She really had never seen a genius break through in the middle of a fierce battle. All right, if these people can reach the 3rd floor, then your Xie family and the 3 major sects should have reached as well. Let's continue on our way. Yi Xian did not waste time and directly chose a passage to enter. Chapter 377. Rendezvous. At this rate, Xiaoyu would only be able to stay on the 3rd level for a few hours at most. There were more than 10 people in the Xie family. If they didn't have enough antidotes, it was very likely that they would all be wiped out. Xiaoyu couldn't help but quicken her steps when she thought of this. This time, they didn't run into anyone apart from the poisonous creatures. They soon reached a depth of 2,500 meters. The precious tree sex plantation was simply too large. From 1,000 to 2,500 meters underground, natural treasures could be seen everywhere. In addition, Yi Xian didn't know just how large the underground maze was. There were many forks in the paths, and it was easy to get lost inside. Thankfully, it was easy to find the way down, So Yi Xian didn't get lost here. It was no wonder that the precious tree sect had been destroyed. Even without the rainbow treasure tree, the natural treasures that had been planted in the precious tree sect were enough to drive a faction crazy. When Yi Xian and Xiaoyu were 3,000 meters down, they finally heard the sounds of human conversation. They quickened their steps and walked out of the tunnel. The third level was very large, stretching as far as the eye could see. At the same time, the ground here wasn't dirt, but a path made of countless vines. At this moment, there were already over 100 people gathered there. The line of sight on the third level was still good, and Xiaoyu immediately spotted her Xie family group. "Father!" Xiaoyu jogged over. Yi Xian followed closely behind. When he heard Xiaoyu's voice, Xiahai also turned his head in surprise, saying with shock, It's good that you're all right." "Father, here are the antidotes." Xiaoyu hastily took out the antidotes. We've gotten quite a few along the way, so there's no rush." Xiahai nodded and distributed the antidotes. Only after that did his gaze fall onto Yi Xian, who was following him. "This is?" Xiahai asked in surprise. "After we were separated, I ran into some trouble and almost lost my life. He saved me, and I asked him to escort me down." Xiaoyu explained. "I see. Many thanks for saving my life, little brother." Xiahai hastily cupped his fists. Yi Xian smiled and said, "Senior, you're too polite. I was hired by Miss Xia." "Father, don't you have a few holy beast corpses in your interspatial ring? Give them to him." Xiaoyu remembered her promise and said immediately. "This?" Xiahai was stunned. Although the holy beast corpse couldn't compare to the holy beast soul, it was still a corpse of more than 50 dragons. If it was cooked and eaten, it could increase one's strength by a lot. This could greatly increase the overall strength of the clan. At this time, a middle-aged man behind Xiahai walked out and coldly shouted, "Brat, isn't your appetite too big?" Xiaoyu hurriedly explained, "Third uncle, it's just a corpse. We don't want the holy beast soul. Moreover, there are so many natural treasures here. What do they have to do with the Saint Beast corpse?" The middle-aged man asked coldly. Xiahai didn't want to say anything more on this topic. He directly handed over an interspatial ring and said, "All right, Yuer's life is more important. Little brother, there are 3 holy beast corpses with 55 dragon strength and 6 holy beast corpses with 51 to 53 dragon strength." Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He excitedly received the interspatial ring and thanked. "Thank you, Senior." With these corpses, he could use Beast King's rampage again. This meant that he could use it twice. After fulfilling his promise, Xiaoyu turned to look at the hundreds of people around and said, "Father, what are we doing here?" Shuai said, Wait for those who entered this poisonous fog to come back." Xiaoyu and Yi Xian turned around and saw that the poisonous fog 100 meters in front of them was extremely dense. It was so dense that they could only see 10 meters in front of them. At this time, they were also in the poisonous fog. However, the poisonous fog 100 meters away was obviously more poisonous. Moreover, they didn't know what was in this poisonous fog, so it was very dangerous. "Why aren't we dispelling this poisonous fog?" Xiaoyu asked in surprise. Shuai shook his head and said, "We can't. We tried to dispel this poisonous fog before, but in the next moment, more poisonous fog would surge out. Moreover, it would become denser and denser. If we continue to dispel it, I'm afraid we won't even have a place to stand." After hearing this, Xiaoyu didn't say anything and quietly waited. As for Yi Xian, he also stood behind them and looked around at the same time. Other than the Xie family, the people from the other 2 great sects were also present. In addition, there were also many lower-ranked sects and families. There was even a group of scattered people. However, the Firestorm Way, which was one of the 4 great powers like the Xie family, was not present. Everyone waited for a while, but no one came out of the poisonous fog. Damn it, there really is danger in there. Even Xie Yang couldn't come out. Xiahai gritted his teeth and said, Xie Yang was the expert that the Xie family had sent into the poisonous fog. He had 48 dragons of strength, and his movement technique was exceptional. He was the strongest person in the Xie family's team besides the 350 dragons experts. Even Uncle Xianxia couldn't come out. Xiaoyu frowned. She was already used to death. In order to survive in this world, it was impossible to not make some sacrifices. However, at this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the poisonous fog. Then a figure rushed out. Someone came out. Immediately, the leaders of the various great powers rushed over. Xiahai did the same. It's Xiaoyang. Xiahai opened his eyes wide and looked at the figure that rushed out of the poisonous fog. This person was Xiaoyang of the Xie family. However, he was missing an arm and even his shoulder. The wound was still bleeding, and no one knew what hurt him. Xiaoyang, are you okay? Xiahai rushed to Xiaoyang's side. The leaders of the various great powers also approached, trying to hear some news. Master, there are a large number of wind mantises in this poisonous fog. Be careful. Xiaoyang suddenly spat out a mouthful of purple blood halfway through his sentence. Then he fell down and died. This kind of news could only be told to Xiahai, but he knew that he couldn't hold on any longer, so he didn't think too much about it. Xiaoyang. Xiahai opened his eyes wide and found that Xiaoyang's wound had festered and turned black. It was obvious that he had died from poison. At the same time, when the people of the other great powers heard Xiaoyang's words, they were also shocked. Wind mantises? They are the sacred beast wind mantises with 45 dragons of strength when they reach adulthood. Moreover, there are a large number of wind mantises. This Xie family expert should be able to resist this poisonous fog, but he was poisoned to death. These wind mantises must have mutated. There's poison on their blades. The people of the various great powers looked at each other. They didn't expect that this unfathomable poisonous fog would be so dangerous. Chapter 378. Joining hands among the major forces present, other than the Xie family, only the other two major sects had 50 dragon power experts. As for the rest, they only had 40 dragon power experts. An adult wind mantis had 45 dragon power and was extremely fast. In this kind of situation, it could at least cause trouble for a 50 dragon power expert. Thus, many people hesitated. Xiahai put away Xiaoyang's corpse and returned to the Xie family's camp, saying, "We won't go in first, let's wait." Wait for what? Naturally, they would wait for the next expert to come out and see if there were any other dangers. However, they were disappointed. They waited for more than 10 minutes and did not see a second person come out. It seemed that all of them died inside. "Patriarch, what do we do now?" Someone in the Xie family team asked. Xiahai hesitated. Should they go in or not? If they went in, they might be wiped out. If they did not go in, they would have died in vain. One had to know, in order to come to the third layer, several of them had died. Of course, if they gave up on the rainbow fruit and returned to the first layer to collect treasures, it was not a bad choice. However, eating a rainbow fruit that could allow one to break through to 60 dragon power was not a small temptation. "Father, what do we do?" Xiaoyu looked at Xiahai worriedly. Xiahai was still deep in thought. At this time, from the corner of his eye, he saw someone leading a team into the poisonous fog. It's that group of independent cultivators. The strongest is only 45 dragon power. They're really courting death. If there's a crisis, this team will definitely fall apart. Xiaoyu's third uncle said coldly. After this group of independent cultivators, the second group entered. The rainbow fruit's power was indeed not small. Then, the third group and the fourth group. The last group was very smart, using the first few groups as cannon fodder and enter behind them. Soon, there were only 3 groups left. Xie family, Flying Cloud sect, and White Cloud Gate. Patriarch Xie, Gate Master Bai, what's your decision? Flying Cloud sect's Gate Master asked from afar. Why? Gate Master what's your opinion? White Cloud Gate's Gate Master narrowed his eyes. Flying Cloud sect's Gate Master said with a smile, "How about this? The 3 of us temporarily join forces to break through this area. If we see a rainbow treasure tree, we'll divide it equally. How about it? Equal distribution?" Hearing this, Xiahai couldn't help but ask, "Sect Master have you forgotten about the mysterious person who gave us the bee skin map?" After being reminded like this, the Flying Cloud sect's sect master's figure also trembled. He had forgotten about this. The mysterious man in white had told them the location of the precious tree sex plantation. How could they not come in? I had people pay attention to that mysterious person. At that time, he also drilled into the ground very early, but I haven't seen him yet. Could it be that he has already entered? The Flying Cloud sect master frowned. Or perhaps they are still behind us, or even hiding somewhere, so that we can take the lead and eliminate the wind mantises inside. The White Cloud Gate sect master added. Xiahai pondered for a moment and said, that person's strength is unfathomable. For the time being, let's classify him as someone with 50 dragons of strength. If the three of us join forces, we should be able to make him somewhat wary. So, Patriarch Xie agrees to the alliance? The Flying Cloud sect master asked. Xiahai shook his head. If it's just a break through this level, joining forces isn't a problem. However, can you guarantee that there will be exactly 3, 6, or 9 rainbow fruits? This question also stumped the Flying Cloud sect master. The legendary rainbow treasure tree was very miraculous. It would bear 1 rainbow fruit every 10 years, but it couldn't bear fruit all the time. What if there were a total of 19 rainbow fruits? Who would the extra one go to? What if there were 16 or 20? How about this? We'll join forces first. If there are still fruits left after the 3 of us divide, we'll draw lots. It's only 1 or 2 anyways. If the rainbow treasure tree has truly lived for 1,000 years, there will be at least a few dozen fruits. It's absolutely enough to divide. The White Cloud Gate sect master said. All right. The Flying Cloud sect master nodded. If there were 30 fruits, each of them would get 10. It was better to be peaceful. If that mysterious person appears, we'll see how things go. The White Cloud Gate sect master added. The Flying Cloud sect master and Xiahai both understood what he meant by seeing how things go. Seeing how things went was to see the other party's strength. If the mysterious person was weak, they would kill him. If he was stronger than them, they would divide the fruits among the 4 sides. Of course, if the mysterious person was much stronger than them, they could only die, and then the mysterious person would monopolize the rainbow fruits. After the 3 sides joined forces, they began to discuss the specific matters, such as how the 3 sides would stand and so on. Because it was Xie Yang who brought the news, the Flying Cloud sect and the White Cloud Gate let Xiahai choose his position first. The first team didn't go far, so Xiahai chose to be at the front. The Flying Cloud sect was at the back on the left, and the White Cloud Gate was at the back on the right. The 3 sides advanced in a triangle. With these 9 experts with 50 dragon power, it shouldn't be a problem. These more than 30 people were surrounded by the 9 experts in the center, and then entered the thick poisonous fog. As soon as they entered, their vision was immediately limited. They could only see things within 10 meters, so they could only rely on their strong perception. Yixian happened to be among them. The 2 sects thought that Yixian was a member of the Xie family, and the Xie family had no time to care about him. He mixed in with the 3 teams and followed Xie closely. Although his vision was the same as others, he had the blood of the Beast King. He could feel that there were some creatures moving quickly 1,000 meters away. The 3-party team walked a few hundred meters forward. These few hundred meters could be finished in less than half a second, but it took them 3 minutes to walk. The 9 experts were also on high alert. Although the chilling wind mantis's realm was lower than theirs, this was not the land. If they were ambushed, even the experts with 50 dragons might die. They didn't dare to disperse the poisonous fog, because the more they dispersed, the denser the poisonous fog would be. Now they could see things 10 meters away. If they were courting death, they might not even be able to see things 3 meters away. Stop! Xiahai, who was walking in the front, suddenly shouted, and everyone in the team stopped. Master Xia, what's the situation? Asked the master of the Flying Cloud sect. Xiahai walked a few steps forward alone and responded, blood. The Xie family people followed and found that the vines in front of them were full of blood and some pieces of meat. Obviously, these were left by the people who just walked in front of them. Chapter 379. In Wind Mantis, everyone be careful. The Flying Cloud sect leader immediately shouted. The bloodstains here should be left by the people who walked in front of them. This meant that there might be wind mantis around. Xiahai walked over, picked up a piece of clothing, and said, "This is a piece of clothing from the Wang family." This sentence scared everyone. The Wang family? Their three-party team was the last to enter, and they were following behind the second-to-last team. And this second-to-last team was the Wang family. It seems that they encountered the wind mantis. Before the Flying Cloud sect leader could finish his words, a burst of hurried footsteps came from the side. He was so scared that he hurriedly shouted, "Be careful! Something is attacking!" As soon as his voice fell, everyone also heard a burst of hurried footsteps. Immediately, the Flying Cloud sect leader launched an attack with the other two experts. Hiss! Hiss! In two muffled sounds, two giant dark green mantises, as tall as a person, fell in front of the Flying Cloud sect leader. Fortunately, it's just two 45 dragon wind mantises. The Flying Cloud sect leader breathed a sigh of relief. He carefully put away the corpses. These wind mantises can travel freely in the poisonous fog. We are living targets. Moreover, this poisonous fog is very poisonous. We don't have many antidotes left. I suggest that we speed up. The White Cloud sect leader suggested. Okay, I agree. The Flying Cloud sect leader nodded. Xiahai also felt that they could not delay any longer. The more they delayed, the more dangerous it would be. He also nodded. At that moment, they quickened their pace, but they did not dare to go too fast. This way, if anything happened, they could respond in time. Just 10 minutes after they entered the poisonous fog, wind mantises attacked again. However, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they slowly approached. A sacred beast with 50 dragon power was not lower than a human's intelligence. They deliberately moved lightly, and even Xiahai and the others did not notice. However, Yixian sensed it. Something is approaching. It's only 1,000 meters away from us. Yixian, who was mixed in the Xie family team, suddenly reminded. What? His words made Xiahai, who was walking in front, stop in his tracks. Kid, we let you stay here, but that doesn't mean you can talk nonsense. Xieyu's third uncle said angrily. False information was very deadly. Yixian ignored him and continued. There are 6 wind mantises. They are only 700 meters away from us. Oh, 600 meters. His words made all the Xie family members widen their eyes in disbelief. Even Xiahai of the 52 dragons did not notice it. So how did Yixian detect it? Could it be true? Little brother, are you sure? Xiahai didn't ask how Yixian knew about this. He only wanted to know if the news was true. I'm sure. We're only 400 meters away. I think they'll make their move soon. Yixian nodded. Xiahai raised his eyebrows and said in shock, Be careful. The enemy is attacking. His words almost made the two teams behind him jump up in fright. Wind mantises again? The Flying Cloud sect and White Cloud sect leaders were shocked. They had just raised their vigilance when they noticed the wind mantises that suddenly came out of the poisonous fog. What fast speed! 50 dragon wind mantises. Their expressions immediately changed. This time, a 50 dragon sacred beast appeared directly. This was really dangerous. In an instant, the 6 wind mantises came out, and all of them had the strength of 50 dragons. Fortunately, these 6 wind mantises were evenly distributed, and each of the 3 forces encountered 2 of them. Xiahai of the Xie family had the strength of 52 dragons, and the other 2 experts also had the strength of 50 dragons. Flying Cloud sect's leader had the strength of 53 dragons, and the other 2 had the strength of 51 and 50 dragons. As for White Cloud sect, their leader had the strength of 51 dragons, and the other 2 had the strength of 50 dragons. They were still able to handle the 250 dragon wind mantises. Apart from these 9 experts, the rest of the people did not move. This level of battle was no longer something they could interfere in. All they could do now was to stay vigilant in case more wind mantises came. This battle was without the slightest suspense. Whether it was the number of people or the realm, the human side was superior to the wind mantises. In less than 10 seconds, all 6 wind mantises were killed. Xiahai put away the corpses of the two wind mantises and said, "These wind mantises are really full of poison. If they are cut, ordinary detoxification pills can't cure them. Fortunately, they only have the strength of 50 dragons." Xiahai was very satisfied with the two souls of sacred beasts with the strength of 50 dragons. He turned to look at Yixian and the team and said, "Little brother, although I don't know how you found them, this time it's all thanks to you. These two wind mantises' corpses are yours as a reward." Yixian did not argue and directly accepted it. At this time, Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Sect had also been dealt with, but they did not know that it was Yixian's credit. "Little brother, if you find these wind mantises again, please be sure to tell me in time," Xiahai said solemnly. Using some sacred beast corpses in exchange for such important information, this trade was naturally worth it. This time, if it was not for Yixian, the wind mantises would have killed their way into the crowd in an instant. At that time, the casualties would have been very heavy. These 6 wind mantises are slowly approaching and then preparing to launch a sneak attack. If they attacked at full speed, I'm afraid I wouldn't have time to tell them. Yixian shook his head. "It's okay, just your best. The corpses are all yours." Xiahai said, "I will." Yixian nodded. Although his physique was only 39 dragons, with the Beast King bloodline, he could sense the wind mantises faster than others. The stronger his strength, the stronger his senses. However, the wind mantises were extremely fast. If they exceeded his reaction time, he would not be able to inform Xiahai. The team began to move forward again. However, before they could take 2 steps, danger struck again. This time, it was far more dangerous than the previous 2 times because the wind mantises that attacked had 55 dragon strength. Although there were only 3 of them, the speed of their sneak attack was almost beyond Yixian's current reaction time. Little Yixian had just opened his mouth when the 3 wind mantises attacked. Moreover, they did not bother the 9 people and directly attacked the team. In an instant, the team was thrown up with countless broken limbs. They were still too slow. Yixian's eyes widened. This was not his fault. At this time, of 55 dragons, wind mantis attacked the Xie family's team. There were only 15 people in the Xie family's team. After excluding the 3 masters Xiahai, Yixian, and Xieyu, there were only 10 people left. In the blink of an eye, the Xie family lost 5 masters with 40 dragons. Chapter 380. Sacred Tree of Life. At this moment, Yixian's eyes suddenly widened. He saw that the wind mantises had turned to look at him. Not good. Yixian hurriedly unsheathed the Bahuang sword and formed a shield. Clang! As soon as the shield was formed, the wind mantises' sharp sides fell. Fortunately, the Bahuang sword was indestructible, so it blocked the attack. Xiahai and the other 2 also reacted and immediately rushed forward. Yixian temporarily avoided the attack. Although the sacred beast of 55 dragons was stronger than Xiahai by 3 dragons, but with the 3 of them working together, they could still fight it. They were afraid that there would be other wind mantises attacking them. Just as the 9 of them were fighting against the 3 wind mantises, more wind mantises appeared. This time, there were quite a few of them. There were more than 10 of them. Not good. There's a large group of wind mantises coming. Yixian's face darkened. At this time, he had not seen the rainbow treasure tree. If he used Beast King Rampage, it would be a waste. However, if he did not use it, this team would be wiped out. Yixian was part of this team. Moreover, he might need more people later, so he had to leave some people behind. That's all we can do. Beast King Rampage, kill. 39 dragons of power increased by 30%, instantly becoming 51 dragons of power. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, his speed had exceeded 60 dragons of power. The strongest person present only had 53 dragons of power, and Yixian's strength had already surpassed them. In an instant, he killed his way out. These dozen wind mantises only had 40 dragons, so he could kill them in a second. He killed one, devoured one, and his strength soared. In less than 3 seconds, he annihilated a group of wind mantises in front of him. Ding! The host has broken through to 40 dragons of power. Beast King Rampage had a duration. With the increase in level, Beast King Rampage would increase again. At this time, there's still Wind Mantises in the other directions. I'll go and kill those 355 dragons first, and leave the rest to them. As Yixian thought to himself, he took out a mask and put on a cloak before rushing back. He suddenly remembered that if he changed his identity and stole the kill, the other party would not dare to say anything. He rushed back at top speed, holding a heaven tool in his hand, and instantly killed the Wind Mantis that was besieged by the 3 masters of the CF family. Then, he unceremoniously swallowed it. Ding! Host has broken through to 42 dragon power. A 55 dragon sacred bee soul allowed Yixian to increase his cultivation by 2 realms. What? Xianxia and the other 2, who were besieging the Wind Mantis, were shocked to see their opponents suddenly die and disappear. The physique of the 3 of them was not weak. They could barely see the expert who had killed the Wind Mantis. Who is it? Xianxia's eyes widened. It should be known that the 3 of them could only delay for the time being. It would take some time to kill the Wind Mantis. As for the flying dragons that circled around Yixian, there were actually a total of 55 dragons, surpassing everyone present. Could it be the mysterious man in white? After killing the Wind Mantis, Yixian did not stop. He immediately rushed out and killed the 2 from Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Gate. Ding! Host has broken through to 45 dragon power. At this time, the effect of Beast King Rampage had just passed. The Sect Master of Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Gate were also stunned. Where did this expert come from? He actually killed the Wind Mantis with 55 dragon power in 1 hit. There's still Wind Mantis. Don't be careless. Yixian disguised his voice, reminded them, and then killed again. At this time, the Wind Mantis had already killed in the team. The whole team was divided, and some of the weaker ones even turned around and ran back like scattered sand. I can't stay here anymore. It seems that I have to act on my own. Yixian muttered in his heart as he charged out once again. With his 45 dragons cultivation, including his movement bonus, he could reach 55 dragons. If he used his movement technique, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill the 55 dragons Wind Mantis in an instant. He wanted to take this opportunity to greatly improve his strength. Or he could go in alone and take a look. There were indeed a lot of Wind Mantis in this area. Yixian killed all the way and moved forward. However, just 2 minutes after he left the team and moved alone, he found some bloodstains and some broken limbs. Originally, this would not have attracted his attention, but he actually found a finger on the vine, a human finger wearing an interspatial ring. Most importantly, there were several Wind Mantis corpses. The team in front, even if they were attacked by the Wind Mantis, it's impossible that they did not collect the corpses, right? Yixian was very surprised. He put away the interspatial ring skeptically and found that there were still many heaven and earth treasures in it. Obviously, no one had touched them. Then, he put away the corpses and continued to move forward. He walked in a straight line for a while. As expected, he found some Wind Mantis corpses, but there were no human corpses. If those teams were attacked, they might have scattered. It's impossible that they did not find any human corpses. As expected, this sea of vines is not that simple. The corpses, before Yixian could finish his thought, he felt a gust of wind. The wind did not come from all directions, but from under his feet. Oh no! Yixian's expression changed. He suddenly jumped up and slashed at the ground. Clang! The sword chi struck a hard object and instantly dissipated. Yixian focused his eyes. It was a vine that stretched out from the ground. It was as thick as a human thigh. It's just as I thought. He widened his eyes. Just now, he was wondering if those human corpses were dragged down and absorbed by these vines. Now, it seemed that was the case. Presumably, in addition to the sneak attacks of the chilling wind mantises, the teams that came in earlier were also attacked by these vines. Whoosh whoosh. The vine attacked again. Yixian's expression darkened. He slashed at it with the Bahuang's sword. Clang! The Bahuang's sword collided with the vine, making a metallic sound. Yi Xian now had 45 dragon power. He used the sky wind sword technique, but he was still unable to cut this vine. How is this possible? Suddenly, Yi Xian had an idea. He immediately condensed the dragon slaying sword. Dragon slaying sword, dragon's judgment. Whoosh! A huge slash broke through the air and cut the vine. Then, Yi Xian took a big step forward and held the broken vine in his hand. Ding! The host has successfully fused with the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. Chapter 381. Tree Demon Ding. Assimilation of the sacred tree of life successful. When he heard the notification in his mind, 2 rays of light shot out from Yi Xian's eyes. As expected, this sea of vines was most likely created by the rainbow treasure tree. Only a 1,000-year-old plant could allow Yi Xian to exchange for the sacred tree of life bloodline. After assimilating with the bloodline, Yi Xian felt the true qi in his body quickly recover. In the blink of an eye, the true qi consumed by the dragon's judgment was replenished. What a powerful recovery ability. It's invincible. Yi Xian's eyes widened. The sacred tree of life was known for its recovery ability. Yi Xian reckoned that even if he cut off his arm, it would still regrow. But in the next moment, what he thought happened. The vine that he had cut off a section of actually grew a new branch right in front of him. Damn it, I can't fight like this. Retreat. Yi Xian hurriedly turned tail and ran. Since the other party could recover like him, he naturally couldn't fight to the death with the vine here. He had to find the main body first. At the same time, he understood the fate of the 3-way team. Total annihilation. Total annihilation. And even if he went back, he probably wouldn't be able to save them. After all, vines were constantly growing out of the ground and attacking him. From 1 to 2 vines, then to 3, and finally to 5 vines. The 5 vines were incredibly tough, and their speed surpassed the vines of the 55 dragon strength Wind Mantis. If it was a normal person, they would have been stabbed to death and dragged away. But this still couldn't kill Yi Xian. After assimilating with the sacred tree of life, Yi Xian's true qi recovery speed was really fast. Coupled with the fact that he was constantly circulating his cultivation technique, it was even faster than when he took pills. At this moment, he was like a perpetual motion machine. He dodged and cut down the vines blocking his way as he advanced. Along the way, he encountered many Wind Mantises, but they were all killed by him. When a notification sounded again, he had already broken through to 46 dragon strength. It's too scary. I ran at least 100,000 meters. According to the speed of the 3-way team, even if there were no vines, we would still die from the poison. Yi Xian felt very helpless. The speed of the 3 parties was just too slow. Something that could have been done in a few seconds had to be dragged on for several minutes. That said, they were acting cautiously. Unfortunately, it was useless. What awaited them was countless vines. Since he had left the team, the next step was to find a rainbow treasure tree. As long as he could obtain a single rainbow fruit, he would be able to break through to the 60 dragons level. This would be like reaching the heavens in a single bound. Although he couldn't see anything in this poisonous fog, and with his eyesight, he could only see a dozen meters. Fortunately, this was just an ordinary place, and there was no illusion array. Just now, he had confirmed the location, so he went straight there. More vines appeared as the battle progressed. At this moment, there were 10 vines attacking Yi Xian at the same time. Even an expert with 60 dragon strength would have a hard time dealing with them. At this moment, Yi Xian's brows suddenly furrowed. He finally sensed something different. This thing was extremely large, reaching dozens of meters tall. It was also constantly twisting. It was clearly a living thing. Yi Xian's first impression of it was that it was like the giant octopus in the deep sea. However, it had many more tentacles than the giant octopus. The rainbow treasure tree. This was Yi Xian's first reaction. Looks like I found the right one. Yi Xian's eyes flashed, and he immediately rushed over. When he was only 500 meters away from the rainbow treasure tree, the poisonous fog suddenly thinned out. His vision also widened bit by bit. When he saw the rainbow treasure tree clearly, his whole body trembled. How is this a rainbow treasure tree? What a joke. Right now, in front of him was a withered black tree that didn't even have a single leaf. It was as if it had been burnt. However, this black tree had dozens of thick branches swaying from top to bottom. It was constantly twisting, making Xian feel disgusted. Seeing this, Xian thought of the appearance of burning mercury sulfide. In other words, it was the serpent of Pharaoh. Demonic tree. This is a demonic tree. Xian recognized it. He had heard of it before. A demonic tree was a strange creature. Although it was a plant, it was like a holy beast. Simply put, this demonic tree was also a type of holy beast. It just didn't have a holy beast soul. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Xian appeared, this demonic tree twisted its branches and stabbed at Xian. This time, Xian had to face dozens of vines and branches with 55 dragon power. Fortunately, he had already fused with the sacred tree of life's bloodline. His inner chi quickly recovered, allowing him to continuously use Dragon's Judgment to cut these vines in half. However, this demonic tree also had extremely strong recovery abilities. The demonic tree couldn't do anything to Xian, and Xian didn't have the energy to spare to attack the demonic tree's trunk. The two sides were in a deadlock. Damn, what happened to the rainbow treasure tree? Why is this disgusting demonic tree so strong? Xian was somewhat helpless, but in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. This was because he felt that this disgusting demonic tree's attack speed had increased by quite a bit. Moreover, even the vines and branches' defenses had become stronger. Why was this? Could it be that this demonic tree destroyed all three sides' teams? Xian's heart trembled. If that was the case, then they were in trouble. At this moment, Xian couldn't make up his mind. He could still use Beast King's Rampage one last time to kill this demonic tree. However, he couldn't guarantee that this demonic tree was mutated from the rainbow treasure tree. Moreover, what if there was danger below? Just as he was thinking, a figure suddenly landed on the demonic tree's trunk. "Your Excellency, please stop," a familiar voice rang out. Then, the vines and branches stopped moving. Xian turned his head in surprise and saw a man in white standing on the trunk. It was the masked man who rode the white crane. "It's you?" Xian cried out in surprise. This mysterious man had finally appeared. The mysterious man was still wearing a mask. When he saw that Xian recognized him, he nodded and said, "That's right, it's me." Xian narrowed his eyes. Those beast skin maps were all made by this mysterious man. But this mysterious man could actually stand on the demonic tree's trunk. It was very strange. Xian's doubts were more or less solved. He looked at the mysterious man and said coldly, "All of this is your trap, right?" "That's right." The masked man admitted directly, "All of this was my plan. Right now, I'm afraid that only you and I are alive on the third floor." Chapter 382. Chilling Wind Mantis King. As expected, Xian's heart sank. It seemed that the alliance between the three parties had been destroyed, including Xiaoyu. "You did this to absorb their corpses?" Xian narrowed his eyes. "Yes, I wanted human corpses." The mysterious person nodded. "When I discovered it, its life was about to come to an end. I just so happened to receive the heritage of the precious tree sect from 1,000 years ago. Therefore, I used human corpses to nurture it into a demon tree that feeds on human essence." The heritage of the precious tree sect. Xian's eyes narrowed. This fellow was indeed connected to the precious tree sect. "That rainbow fruit," Xian murmured. "It's already a miracle that it survived 1,000 years. How can it bear fruit?" The mysterious man sneered. After a short pause, he said, "However, if it absorbs enough human blood essence, it can still bear a fruit. Originally, I wanted to kill these people, but I didn't expect an unforeseen event to occur. Kid, I'll give you a chance now. As long as you submit to me, I'll give you the second fruit that the demon tree bears. How about it?" "Submit?" Xian snorted coldly. "Don't even think about submitting to someone." However, he focused on another key point in the mysterious man's words. The second fruit. This meant that the first fruit would belong to the mysterious man. He guessed in his heart, Just how strong was this mysterious man? Since that's the case, why don't you do it yourself? Yixian narrowed his eyes. I only have 50 dragons of strength, so I can only lure them in and let the demon tree do the work. The mysterious man didn't hide anything, as if victory was in sight. 50 dragons of strength, huh? Yixian narrowed his eyes. He hadn't thought that the mysterious man's cultivation level was only 4 dragons higher than his. He estimated that he could kill the mysterious man instantly even without using the Beast King's rampage. Of course, that was if the demon tree didn't interfere. Kid, I know what you're thinking. You can't kill me because there are more than just demons here. Suddenly, the mysterious man shouted, "Come out." What? His actions made Yixian's heart tremble. Could it be that the mysterious man had other helpers? At this moment, the demonic tree suddenly twisted violently, and then a crack appeared on its trunk. When Yixian saw the figure walking out of the demon tree, he was also shocked. Wind Mantis. This Wind Mantis was different from the ones he had seen before. Not only was its entire body a strange purplish red, but it was also taller and bigger. It's the Wind Mantis King that coexists with the tree demon. Its strength has already reached 65 dragon power. With it around, you won't be able to escape, the mysterious man said proudly. He was the one who had nurtured the rainbow treasure tree into a tree demon, and this Wind Mantis King had grown by relying on the tree demon. Therefore, he could indirectly command the Wind Mantis King. Then you want me to submit to you so that I can help you collect human corpses, right? If that's the case, why don't you let it out? Yixian asked in surprise. No, the chilling Wind Mantis King coexists with the tree demon. It can't be too far away. The mysterious man shook his head. Is that so? Yixian narrowed his eyes and said, What if I don't submit to you? The mysterious man sneered and said, I have 100 ways to make sure that you won't be able to survive. I like to attack those who think they have outstanding abilities the most. Remember, this is my territory. So what? Do you think that just the tree demon and this Wind Mantis King alone can pose a threat to me? Yixian's lips curled up slightly. The mysterious man mimicked him and asked, Do you think that with your strength, you can go against the Wind Mantis King? Yixian only laughed coldly. Suddenly, 10 dragons flew out from his body. 46 dragon power. Then, he used Beast King Rampage right in front of the mysterious man. 46 dragons turned into 60 dragons in an instant. What? The mysterious man was shocked. Yixian actually increased his strength by 14 dragon power. How is that possible? However, this didn't mean that Yixian could fight against the Wind Mantis King. After all, the Wind Mantis King was a sacred beast with 65 dragons. However, what he didn't know was that Yixian also had a 20% movement speed bonus. If he didn't use martial arts, his speed would surpass that of a martial artist with 70 dragons. If he used the heaven-shattering body technique at 70%, this Wind Mantis King would definitely not be able to keep up with him. Whoosh! Yixian didn't want to waste time. After using Beast King Rampage, he rushed out directly. The Wind Mantis King screamed and went up to meet him. As for the tree demon, it twisted its branches and attacked Yixian. Clang! Yixian took out the Dragon Slayer sword and slashed at the armor of the Wind Mantis King. Its defense is so strong. He frowned. This Wind Mantis King had also mutated. Its strength was much stronger than that of a sacred beast with 65 dragons. It probably reached 67 or 68 dragons, so its defense was very strong. Whoosh! After the Wind Mantis King approached Yixian, it also began to attack with its double scythes. Its attack speed was very fast. If it wasn't for Yixian's movement speed bonus, he probably wouldn't have been able to dodge it. At the same time, the tree demon also used its branches to attack Yixian. The branches of the tree demon were very tough and very difficult to cut off. Facing this double attack, Yixian also felt a little pressure. Although his strength had reached 60 dragons, his true chi was still at the realm of 46 dragons. It wouldn't be so easy to cut off the branches and the shell of the Wind Mantis King. Moreover, The tree demon's recovery was very strong. Even if it was cut off, it would grow back immediately. Moreover, there was an Wind Mantis King on the side, so he changed his battle plan. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. The ringleader here was referring to the mysterious man and the tree demon. The mysterious man had received the inheritance of the precious tree sect. There must be a lot of good things in the ring. If he could get the ring, he might be able to break through again. The tree demon was too difficult to deal with. It would be a good choice to kill it first. Anyway, the Wind Mantis King would be the last to be killed. Whoosh! Xianxia suddenly burst out with speed and rushed toward the tree demon. The mysterious man's face changed greatly. He didn't expect Xianxia to have such strength. It was a mistake. Fortunately, the tree demon and the Wind Mantis King were blocking him. Otherwise, Xianxia would have run in front of him and cut off his head with his sword. Damn it, come out! The mysterious man cursed angrily. In the next moment, another crack appeared on the trunk of the tree demon. Then, another Wind Mantis King walked out of it. What? Xianxia was shocked. There were two Wind Mantis Kings. Chapter 383. Underworld Swordplay. Xianxia finally reacted. If there was only one Wind Mantis King, how could it produce so many tiny mantids? Although it was said that the female mantis would eat the male mantis while they were doing it, that was for ordinary mantises. The Wind Mantis was a holy beast. His expression became extremely gloomy. Two Wind Mantis Kings with 65 dragon strength and a tree demon. Even if it was 70 dragon strength, it would be able to deal with a 70 dragon's strength martial artist. Ha! Boy, you didn't expect this, did you? Since you want to play, I don't mind playing with you. The mysterious man laughed. Umph. Xianxia snorted coldly and used all his strength to break through. However, when the second Wind Mantis King joined the battle, he was stopped and even forced to retreat. What should we do? He thought quickly in his mind. Under such circumstances, he no longer had any helpers. With 30 dragon strength, he would be sending himself to his death. At this moment, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Previously, when he had collected so many corpses, he had forgotten one thing, and that was the fusion of martial arts. At this moment, there were still more than 50 sword-type martial arts in the devouring system that had yet to be fused. This was his last straw. Otherwise, he could only flee. Ding! Fusion of martial arts failed. 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 Ding! Fusion of martial arts successful. Host has obtained a middle grade heaven level martial art, Underworld Sword Art. Do you want to learn it? After hearing this notification, Xianxia's eyes flashed, and he immediately replied, yes. Ding! Host has learned the Underworld Swordsmanship. Current level is 10%. He had finally fused his powers. Xianxia's eyes widened. This time, he did not use the Sky Wind Sword technique, but the Underworld Sword technique. But now, his position was even more dangerous. Beast King's rage had a duration. If he didn't leave after the duration was up, he would be dead for sure. Since the beginning of time, who hasn't died? Dying early or dying late doesn't make any difference. Let's fight. Xianxia couldn't care less and began to fight to the death with the two Wind Mantis Kings. Although the Underworld Sword Art was a middle-grade heaven-tier martial art, it was only at 10% completion. No matter how strong it was, it could not be stronger than the Sky Wind Sword Art at 100% completion. However, Xianxia had the bloodline of Sword Saint and had a deep understanding of swordsmanship. Ding! Underworld Swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 20%. Ding! Underworld Swordsmanship proficiency has increased. Current proficiency is at 30%. In less than 3 seconds, his mastery of the Underworld Sword Art had increased by 20%. Right now, the power of the Underworld Sword Technique had just caught up with the Heavenly Wind Sword Technique. Ding! Underworld Swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 40%. At this moment, the power of the underworld sword technique had already surpassed the sky wind sword technique. Originally, he was already at a disadvantage. Now that his attack power had increased, he immediately fought back. However, it was still not enough to kill the two Wind Mantis Kings. Ding! Underworld swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 50%. This time it was enough. Haha, you're dead meat. Yi Xian's eyes burst out 2 rays of light and condensed into the Dragon Slayer sword again. Dragon Slaying Sword of 8 Desolation, Dragon's Judgment. A huge white slash swept out and slashed towards the Devil Tree. Yi Xian had tried to attack the Devil Tree from a distance, but the Dragon's Judgment was broken by the scythes of the two Wind Mantis Kings. This time, the male Wind Mantis King still rushed over and slashed with his scythes, preparing to break the Dragon's Judgment. However, this Dragon's Judgment was only Yi Xian's attempt to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Underworld swordsmanship, Sword of Underworld. While the male Mantis King was away, Yi Xian suddenly attacked the female Mantis King. With a slash of his sword, the female Mantis King's head flew off. The Underworld swordsmanship's 50% proficiency level had already surpassed the Sky Wind swordsmanship's 100% proficiency level. Coupled with the Beast King bloodline's Beast King deterrence, even if the female Mantis King's armor was hard, it could not withstand the slash. The female Mantis King was dead. Yi Xian rushed forward and devoured the female Mantis King's corpse. Ding! Host has broken through to 48 dragon power. When the notification sounded, 3 more dragons appeared beside Yi Xian. 63 dragon power. Beast King Rampage, a divine skill. The male Mantis King had just broken the Dragon's Judgment, and by the time it reacted, Yi Xian was already in front of it. Underworld swordsmanship, Sword of Underworld. A slash containing the aura of death swept across the male Mantis King's head. It suffered the same fate as the female Mantis King, being beheaded by Yi Xian. Ding! Host has broken through to 50 dragon power. The number of dragons changed once again. Now, Yi Xian had 65 dragon power. The 2 Mantis Kings were killed by Yi Xian within a second. This scene happened so quickly that the mysterious man did not have time to react. By the time he reacted, Yi Xian had already slashed out with the Dragon's Judgment. The Dragon's Judgment cut through dozens of branches, then sank into the trunk of the demonic tree, which was at least 10 meters thick. Crack! The trunk of the demonic tree was cut in half at the waist, then fell backward. No! The mysterious man, standing on a branch, shouted loudly. This demonic tree was something that he had spent a lot of effort to cultivate. Just a little more, and he would have been able to condense a fruit if he had just gotten a few more human corpses. Just as he was feeling pained, a figure flew over. He only saw a flash of cold light, and then he saw his own body. Like the 2 Mantis Kings, it had its head chopped off. Plop! His head fell to the ground, and his eyes were filled with resentment. He would never have thought that he, who could control 2 Wind Mantis Kings, would die at the hands of Yi Xian. In fact, when the last Dragon's Judgment was slashed out, the duration of Beast King's rampage had already passed. However, both Wind Mantis Kings were dead, so this battle was a foregone conclusion. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me with only 50 dragon power? You're courting death. Yi Xian snorted coldly and took off the mysterious man's mask. It was a face that he had never seen before. However, this mysterious man's age was beyond his expectations. He estimated that this person was at most 25 years old. He was just curious. Now that he saw the mysterious man's true face, he did not think much of it. He turned around and put away the mysterious man's yin and yang ring. When he turned to look at the demonic tree, he found that the decapitated demonic tree began to wither quickly, then turned into a thick layer of ash. What a pity. If I devoured it, it would have been worth a lot of experience points. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. He began to check the mysterious man's yin and yang ring, and found that there were indeed many good things inside. Most of them were heaven and earth treasures. At the same time, There was a pile of books on the cultivation of heaven and earth treasures in the precious tree sect. Yixian was not interested in this, but he still recorded it into the devouring system. Ding! The host has broken through to 52 dragon power. Chapter 384. You got the wrong person. Ding! Host has broken through to 52 dragons power. After devouring everything inside, Yixian's strength increased again. Although there was no rainbow fruit that could allow one to break through to 60 dragon power, Yixian's harvest this time was quite good. One had to know that when he came, he was not even 30 dragons. Now, the matter was finally over. Yixian observed his surroundings for a moment before quickly leaving. However, he didn't leave the third level. Instead, he ran around in the poisonous fog. In this fog, there were still wind mantises. At this moment, Yixian felt that something was amiss. He looked down and realized that the vines under his feet were beginning to wither. Wei Zhentian. He hastily called out Wei Zhentian. Boom! The entire sea of vines turned into ashes and collapsed. Fortunately, Yixian reacted quickly and sat on Wei Zhentian's back. So that's how it is. This poisonous fog is emitted by the pile of poisonous heavenly treasures below. Yixian rode Megatron and quickly descended. Down below, there were countless skeletons of human beings and corpses of sinister wind mantises, as well as many cosmos rings and poisonous herbs. Yixian jumped down from Wei Zhentian's back again. Previously, he didn't dare to collect these poisonous plants. Now that he had fused with the sacred tree of life's bloodline, he wasn't afraid anymore. Immediately, he began to collect the heavenly materials and earthly treasures and interspatial rings. As for the wind mantises that were still alive, he just killed them one by one. The fog had yet to descend, so he took this opportunity to explore the entire third floor. At the same time, he also discovered the corpses of the 3 sect alliance members, which naturally included the Xie family. What a pity, such a beauty is gone just like that. Yixian shook his head helplessly. After sweeping through the third floor, he returned to the second floor. There were still many poisonous plants on the second floor, so he strolled around for a while before returning to the first floor. The first level's natural treasures were almost completely swept clean. After all, many people retreated in the face of the second level's poisonous fog and returned to the land. When Yixian devoured all of these things, he broke through to 55 dragon power. Of the 4 great forces in this area, the strongest was only 54 dragons, and he had already surpassed that. Looks like I can't stay here any longer. I have to go to a more prosperous place. Yixian thought to himself. Now, he also understood the geographical structure of the Bloodstone continent. He was currently in the Luo Sha region, which was under the jurisdiction of the Battle King Hall. The Luo Sha region was divided into countless territories. His current territory was extremely small, and it couldn't even be considered a low-level territory. After all, there was a spirit realm expert in a low-level territory. However, when he returned to the land, he discovered that there were other people here. However, he felt that something was wrong because he saw a few people who seemed to be interrogating others. They're out. Someone's out. Someone suddenly shouted. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw Yixian, the strange white-clothed man wearing a mask. Master, that's him. At this time, someone suddenly pointed at him and shouted, Oh! An elder turned his head to look at Yixian in surprise. You're the one who killed my disciple? Your disciple? Yixian turned his head with some surprise, wondering if the other had mistaken him for someone else. The youth who'd pointed at him just now continued, Master, he's the one who set the trap and killed Junior Brother, stealing the precious tree sect's heritage that originally belonged to us. Yixian was now certain that the other had mistaken him for someone else. This was because he was still wearing a mask. The mysterious person was also wearing a mask and wearing white, and was about the same height as him. Bastard, how dare you kill my disciple? I'm going to capture you and let you experience the feeling of being cut into 1,000 pieces. The elder roared loudly and charged towards Yixian with large strides. 65 dragons. This elder was actually an expert with 65 dragons. Yi Xian's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. It was obvious that this elder was definitely a local and had come from another territory. At this time, he'd also thought things through. The mysterious person must have killed someone and stolen the precious tree sex heritage. He must have heard of what was happening here and hurried over. What was even more coincidental was that he'd mistaken him for the mysterious person who died. Although Yi Xian wanted to explain, the elder was too fast and didn't give him a chance to speak. He was in front of him in the blink of an eye. This elder had 65 dragons of strength, the same as the two Wind Mantis Kings. However, his strength was absolutely above the two Mantis Kings. The elder's casual punch contained unparalleled strength. If this punch had landed on Yi Xian's head, it would have blown Yi Xian's brains apart. However, Yi Xian wouldn't allow him to be so presumptuous. Bahuang's sword break. With a crisp sound, the Bahuang sword shattered into 8 sharp blades and attacked Yi Xian from 8 directions. At the same time, Yi Xian also used the heaven-shattering movement method to dodge the punch. Whoosh whoosh. The elder was slightly surprised when the wind from the punch whistled past him. Umph. Have you already swallowed that rainbow fruit? A mere 55 dragons is nothing to this old man. The elder's body trembled as a thick surge of true qi rippled out, sending the 8 blades flying. However, the Bahuang wind formation was only one of Yi Xian's attacks. At this moment, Yi Xian had already taken out a low-rank celestial weapon. An aura of death began to spread out. Yi Xian chopped down with extreme speed. It was as if Mount Tai was crashing down, giving the elder a sense of oppression. What? The elder once again felt incredulous. It was extremely rare for a cultivator with 55 dragons of strength to be able to train a sword method to such a level. However, he wasn't to be trifled with. Clang! The elder took out a long sword and blocked the chop. Then, he used his true qi to push Yi Xian's long sword away and counterattacked. His attack wasn't any weaker than Yi Xian's. 100% mastery. Yi Xian reacted instantly. He didn't expect to see an expert who had trained his martial arts to 100% mastery. However, he wasn't afraid. Bahuang's sword assemble. He reassembled the Bahuang sword. His opponent's offensive and movement techniques were on par with his. Therefore, if he wanted to win, he had to use the Bahuang sword. The Bahuang sword was stronger when facing a strong opponent. Yi Xian held it in his hand. The strength of his true qi wasn't any weaker than the elder's. Moreover, he could use the elder to increase the proficiency of the underworld swordsmanship. This brat does have some ability. The old man frowned, but his eyes flashed with killing intent. His 3 disciples were right behind him. His 65 dragons of strength couldn't do anything to a 55 dragons brat like Yi Xian. It was really embarrassing. Therefore, he didn't want to capture Yi Xian. Instead, he attacked with all his might to kill Yi Xian. However, after exchanging more than 10 moves with Yi Xian, he realized that he couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. Moreover, he had a bad premonition in his heart. Chapter 385. Kill. Ding. Yellow Springs Sword Techniques Proficiency Level has increased. Current proficiency level is 60%. Ding. Yellow Springs Sword Techniques Proficiency Level has reached the upper limit. When Yi Xian heard this notification in his mind, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly. Proficiency level should be related to his cultivation level. As long as he continued to break through, the number would increase again. But this was a topic for another time. Right now, he had to kill this old man first. If you don't give me a chance to speak, then I'll kill you. I'll send you to hell with my 60% proficiency level Yellow Springs sword technique. Yi Xian's aura surged as he turned his anger into strength and attacked madly. Originally, he and the old man were evenly matched. However, as his proficiency in the middle grade heaven class underworld sword art increased, he broke the balance. The situation was tilting in his direction, and the old man was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. How is this possible? The old man's 3 disciples were shocked. Although they only had 50 dragon strength, they understood the old man's strength. But today, the old man couldn't do anything to someone whose cultivation level was lower than his. This was too surreal. What's going on? Why does Master seem to be at a disadvantage? Impossible. There must be a problem. The other must have used some underhanded method. It's only been a few months, but this person's cultivation level has soared to 5 dragons. His battle strength has also skyrocketed. This must be the effect of the precious tree sex inheritance and the rainbow fruit. The 3 of them had greedy expressions on their faces. They had come here for 2 reasons. Firstly, to avenge their junior brother. Secondly, to obtain the rainbow fruit that could allow them to break through to 60 dragon powers. Swish! At this moment, a crisp sound suddenly rang out, and the 3 saw the old man rapidly retreat. Master's arm has been cut off. The 3 were very shocked. At this moment, the old man suddenly shouted, "Bastard brat, this old man won't let you have peace even if I die." The old man's voice reverberated in the air, and then his body began to expand. Bam! After a huge sound, the old man's body suddenly exploded, sending pieces of flesh flying everywhere. Xianxia was also astonished. What kind of F***king martial arts was this? How could he self-destruct? However, when the old man self-destructed, he had already used his true energy to protect himself, so the flesh and blood did not splatter onto him. However, the moment the old man died, a red mark drilled into his body. Ding! Host has been hit by the soul-chasing imprint. Soul-chasing mark? Xianxia frowned in astonishment. What was this? When did he get it? He looked down and was shocked to find that his chest was stained red. Just now, he had used his Xianxia to block the attack, but what he had blocked was the old man's blood essence using a special method. It was a type of sensory imprint. What the hell is this? Xianxia reached out and tried to wipe it off. Realizing that he couldn't wipe it off, he flipped open his shirt to take a look. There was already a red dot on his chest, but he still couldn't wipe it off. Just as he was thinking about it, the old man's 3 disciples looked at each other. An expert with 65 dragons of power was beheaded by Xianxia with 55 dragons of power. This was a challenge that surpassed 10 levels. Run! The 3 of them immediately reacted and turned to run. You want to run? Xianxia's eyes flickered, but he did not chase after them. He quietly collected the old man's interspatial ring. However, the 8 sharp blades had already shattered and caught up to the 3 of them. Rip! Rip! 2 crisp sounds were heard, and 2 heads flew. Meanwhile, the 3rd person was stopped by several sharp blades and did not dare to move at all. Don't kill me. The last person was so scared that he wet himself and hurriedly begged for mercy. Xianxia put away the old man's interspatial ring, then slowly walked over and said, "What is this red dot on my body?" The young man swallowed and said slowly, "If I tell you, you won't kill me." However, just as he said this, he felt a chill on his arm, and a fresh severed arm was thrown into the air. I'll tell you. The young man endured the pain of his severed arm and hurriedly said, "This is a secret technique of the Gui Yuan sect. It condenses all the blood in the body into a single drop and leaves a mark on the enemy's body. Anyone who practices the Gui Yuan sect techniques will be able to sense it." So you're saying that I'm now a GPS signal transmitter? Xianxia thought to himself. If he encountered someone from the Gui Yuan sect, he would definitely be thought to have killed someone from the Gui Yuan sect. When that time came, he would attract a lot of trouble. I've already told you. Can you spare? The young man said. However, before he could finish speaking, the 8 desolate blades were suddenly activated. Then, another head was thrown into the air. Facing an enemy, Xianxia would not show mercy. If he let the tiger return to the mountain, it would only bring him more trouble. Then, he put away the 3 people's interspatial rings. Ding! The host has broken through to 58 dragons of power. The old man and the 3 people were quite wealthy. It allowed him to jump from 55 dragons of power to 58 dragons of power. At this moment, if the old man could be resurrected, he would probably be killed by Xianxia in an instant. At this moment, Xianxia noticed that there were more than 10 warriors from the family who had been captured by the old man and the other 3 for interrogation. "Sir, please spare our lives." The leader of the warriors took the lead and knelt down. Then, everyone else knelt down. Although Xian had killed many people, it was not to the extent of killing innocent people. Moreover, these people were not at a high level, so he was too lazy to make a move. Hand over your interspatial rings, and I'll spare your lives. Xian's cold voice fell into everyone's ears. Yes, yes, yes. Immediately, this group of people took off their interspatial rings. Then, the leader of the warriors handed them over to Xian. They also understood that Xian wanted to let them go. Otherwise, they would have become corpses long ago. Even an expert with 65 dragons of power had died at the hands of Xian. If Xian wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. After keeping the interspatial rings, Xian quickly left and disappeared in front of this group of people. Phew! This group of people heaved a sigh of relief. Although they were penniless, it was already very difficult to keep their lives. After leaving, Xian summoned Wei Jintian and went to a quiet place. There were many ores in the old man's interspatial ring. Together with the heaven artifacts that he had collected, Wei Jintian had the chance to eat a good meal. This time it was a close call, but I used up my last Beast King rampage. Next, I have to go and get some corpses of the sacred beasts of 60 dragons. Xian thought to himself. Beast King Rampage was his greatest trump card. In this world where danger lurked everywhere, he needed to have a trump card that he could use at all times. This time, he rested for 3 full days. Chapter 386. How unlucky! His heaven-shattering method had also improved slightly in these 3 days, breaking through to 80%. As for the Yellow Spring sword technique, he still couldn't improve it, so he could only give it up for now. During this time, he also experimented and tested the Sacred Tree of Life's abilities. Indeed, the Sacred Tree of Life possessed unparalleled recovery abilities. He hardened his heart and cut off his left arm. Immediately afterwards, he saw the severed arm begin to shrink and turn into a puddle of blood. But before this, a new arm grew out from where his severed arm had been, looking exactly the same as before. The Sacred Tree of Life was indeed amazing. Xian was very much looking forward to this. If a top-ranked bloodline was already so strong, how strong would a divine rank bloodline be? As for the soul-chasing seal, Xian didn't pay much attention to it. He estimated that as long as he reached 65 dragons of strength, he should be able to get rid of it. 3 days later, he left on Wei Jintian, who'd grown to 50 dragons of strength. Now, this area couldn't hold him anymore, so he had to go to a higher level place. His destination this time was a place called Redwood Region. This territory could barely be considered a low-level territory because its lord was a spirit realm expert. Wei Jintian's speed had increased greatly after breaking through to 50 dragons of strength. Xian arrived at Redwood Region in just 2 days. 2 days of hurrying had caused Xian's mouth to grow thin. He had Wei Jintian stop outside the city, then prepare to enter the city to eat a good meal and take care of some matters along the way. What he wanted to do now was to find an auction house and pass down the precious tree sect's method of cultivating worldly treasures. Even the worst sect in Redwood Region was stronger than the precious tree sect, but that didn't mean that no one wanted the sect's methods. In fact, they might even pay a high price. After all, this was a land of great talents. If a large sect obtained it, they might be able to grow a spirit tree that was even better than the rainbow treasure tree. Of course, he also wanted to purchase some sacred beast corpses with 60 dragons of strength. Xian entered the city called Devil Ape City. The demon ape was an extremely powerful saint beast, with a strength of 70 dragon powers. The city lord of the Devil Ape City had cultivated a technique that allowed him to temporarily transform into a devil ape. Xian walked in. After asking around, he found a good restaurant and prepared to have a good meal. The restaurant was a good place to hear many things. This time, Xian heard about the Undying Sword God. The Undying Sword God had attempted the Sword God Pagoda more than 1,000 times, but he had never succeeded. Furthermore, the Undying Sword God was heavily injured this time, so he should be able to rest for a while. Xian didn't take it to heart because he was too far away from the Undying Sword God. The undying sword god was an expert that had surpassed the spirit's 4 realms. He had already reached the nihility god realm. As for Yi Xian, he hadn't even reached the spirit realm. This kind of thing, it was better to just listen. When the dishes were served, Yi Xian was like a hungry tiger and began to eat like crazy. However, when he was halfway through his meal, a voice suddenly rang out. "Young masters, this way, please." The waiter led the 2 of them upstairs. "Senior brother, where did the elders go?" "The elders went to find the Devil Ape City's city lord. They will be here soon." "City lord? How does the elders know the city lord?" "Nonsense. The city lord of the Devil Ape City was once an elder of our Gui Yuan sect. Where do you think we get all our cultivation resources from?" "So that's how it is." The 2 white-clothed youths chatted as they walked upstairs. At the same time, when Yi Xian heard the conversation between the 2, his chopsticks couldn't help but stop. Gui Yuan sect? The elder he killed in the Precious Tree Sect's plantation was a member of the Gui Yuan sect. Damn, my luck is too bad. The Gui Yuan sect is actually established in the Redwood territory. Yi Xian thought to himself. At this moment, the 2 of them had already gone upstairs. Suddenly, the young man in the lead frowned and looked straight at Yi Xian. From the beginning, he'd had a strange feeling in his heart. Now that he saw Yi Xian, 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes. "Senior brother, this feeling, could it be the soul-chasing mark?" The leading youth's junior brother asked in surprise. The leading youth's face was cold. This was the first time he had encountered the soul-chasing mark, so he didn't immediately react. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Xian. He stealthily placed his hand on his long sword and said in a low voice, "Junior brother, he has the soul-chasing mark on him. He must have killed someone from our Gui Yuan sect. Later, you will help me capture this person. But we don't know his cultivation level." The junior brother replied in a low voice. "So what? The reason why our Gui Yuan sect has been able to survive until now is because of our unity. Now that we have seen the person who killed our disciples, how can we let him go?" The youth said in a low voice. His junior brother was still a little worried and said weakly, "Senior brother, why don't we wait for the elders? Junior brother, you were promoted to a true disciple, but you are still so weak. Since you are afraid, I will do it myself." After the youth finished speaking, he pulled out his long sword with a clang and charged towards Yi Xian. "Brat, how dare you kill someone from our Gui Yuan sect? Today, I will avenge my junior brother." When these words fell into Yi Xian's ears, a simple and unadorned long sword appeared in his hand. Crack! The Bahuang sword broke into 8 pieces and flew out in an instant. The youth only had 58 dragons of strength, which was the same level as Yi Xian. Facing the attack of the Bahuang wind formation, he probably wouldn't even last a second. Indeed, in less than a second, the youth was chopped into several pieces. Not only that, but his junior brother also died miserably. When the 2 heads fell to the floor of the second floor of the restaurant, the entire second floor fell silent. Someone actually dared to kill someone in the Devil Ape City? No one in the Redwood territory agreed. The Devil Ape City also had its own laws, and one of them was that it was forbidden to kill in the city. However, Yi Xian had already violated this law. After all, he had already killed someone from the Gui Yuan sect, so he might as well kill 2 more. He quickly stood up, put away the 2 people's belongings, and turned to leave. However, just as he jumped out, a loud roar resounded in the sky. "How dare you kill a disciple of the Gui Yuan sect? You are courting death." Hearing this, Yi Xian turned his head and saw 3 elders running towards him on the roof. Gui Yuan sect elders. 1 with 68 dragons, 2 with 67 dragons. Yi Xian glanced at them and his heart trembled. With his current strength, he should be able to fight against the 3 of them. However, this was the Devil Ape City. If he fought, what if the mayor of the Devil Ape City was attracted? Chapter 387. Lord of Demonic Ape City, I don't care if you're from the Gui Yuan sect. Kill. Yi Xian immediately made a decision in his heart. He estimated that if he killed these 3 people, he would at least be able to break through to 60 dragon power. Suddenly, his aura surged as he condensed a dragon-slaying sword and charged forward. "Brat, you're advancing instead of retreating. Do you think the three of us are trash? One of the Gay Yuan sect elders was furious as he raised his hand and slapped towards Yixian. This slap was like a mountain pressing down on Yixian. However, Yixian did not care at all as he slashed down with his dragon-slaying sword. Dragon's Judgment. Bang! The two energies collided and a shockwave swept out in an instant, sending some of the stronger martial artists flying. Those who could live here were all weak. The weakest among them had 40 dragon power and would not be killed by the shockwave. However, these buildings were different. In an instant, the surrounding buildings collapsed with a loud bang. Smoke and dust filled the air as a great battle broke out. Brat, I don't care which sect you're from. Since you dared to kill my people, I want you to pay with your life. After witnessing Yixian's power, the leading elder roared in anger. He was different from the two Gui Yuan sect disciples. He was very familiar with the soul-chasing mark, so he could sense it in an instant. At the same time, he also guessed that Yixian should be from some big faction. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to block his attack with only 58 dragon power. Die! The three of them did not dare to be careless. They instantly rushed to Yixian's side and attacked together. As for Yixian, he was also holding his dragon-slaying sword and using a mid-grade heaven-level martial art, the underworld sword technique. Although he was weaker than the three of them, with a 20% increase in movement speed, the mid-grade heaven-level martial art, the underworld sword technique, and the 8 desolate sword, it was only a matter of time before he killed the three of them. I have to end this quickly. Die. My sword falls to the underworld. Yixian swept out his sword and struck one of them with lightning speed, sending him flying. Although he was not able to kill him, he was able to severely injure him, which was beyond everyone's expectations. Most importantly, the pincer attack of the three instantly turned into 2. This must be a mid-grade heaven-level martial art. The 2 old men who were still present were stunned for a moment before they reacted. That kind of attack power had already surpassed what they knew. Kill him and get the mid-grade heaven-level martial art. The 2 of them had the same thought. However, they underestimated Yixian's strength. 8 desolate sword, 60% mastery of middle-grade heaven-level martial arts, and sword saint bloodline. You think you can stop me? Yixian suddenly raised his head and let out a long howl. His entire body moved like a ghost. His speed was even faster than the 2 of them. T-Dai's underworld sword descends. Yixian roared angrily as he slashed out again, sending an elder flying. Now, there was only one person left. Not good. The remaining elder's face darkened. Even if he was 10 dragons stronger than Yixian, the 3 of them could not do anything to Yixian. Now that he was the only one left, how could he fight? Retreat. The old man's eyes flashed as he explosively retreated. However, Yixian's speed was even faster than his. How could he leave? With 2 less obstacles, Yixian could focus on attacking the elder. In just a second, the elder was completely defeated by the 60% Imperial City Sword techniques. Kid, you're courting death. The 2 elders were sent flying by Yixian also came forward. However, they did not see that 2 beams of light had already shot out from Yixian's eyes. Underworld sword technique. Yixian's body suddenly emitted a sinister aura. Without hesitation, he turned around and slashed with his sword. A crisp sound was heard, followed by a head being thrown into the air. He was already heavily injured and his strength was greatly reduced. However, he courted death by sending himself to Yixian. Yixian naturally would not show mercy. After the death of the 67 dragons, origin returning sect elder, Yixian took a step forward and took off his universe ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 59 dragons. Another flying dragon rose from the elder's body. He broke through in battle. The remaining 2 elders were shocked. They finally understood who they had offended. They immediately turned around and fled. Yixian naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity to beat a drowning dog. With a few strides, he killed the other heavily injured old man. After devouring the items in the Qian Kuan ring, he set his eyes on the elder of the Gui Yuan sect who had 68 dragons. City Lord, save me. The elder suddenly roared as if he had seen a glimmer of hope. Yi Xian frowned. Looking through the elder's silhouette, he saw a burly man rushing towards them. It was the city lord of the Devil Ape City. Oh no! His expression changed as he quickly chased after him. Underworld's sword technique, an aura of death spread. Stop! The burly man in front of Yi Xian shouted. However, he could not scare Yi Xian. Yi Xian waved his arm, and the third elder's head flew off. Blood splattered everywhere like a fountain. Dead. With his head chopped off, the elder's speed slowed down. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly took the elder's universe ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 60 dragons of power. When this notification sounded, Yi Xian's fighting spirit burned to the extreme. However, he did not have time to rejoice because the burly man had already rushed in front of him. The moment the burly man punched, Yi Xian's brain suddenly stopped working. It was as if time had been pulled back to a few centuries ago. When Yi Xian came back to his senses, the wind from the punch had already arrived. No, rather than calling it a fist, it would be better to call it a huge meteorite that smashed towards Yi Xian. So strong. If I get hit, I'm afraid I'll be killed instantly. Yi Xian's heart sank. At this moment, he had no way to retreat. He could only face it head-on. Crack! With a crisp sound, the Bahuang's sword shattered and reformed into the Bahuang shield in front of him. Coincidentally, the burly man's punch also arrived. An incomparably powerful force slammed into the 8 Desolation shield. Yi Xian did not have time to dodge and took the hit. Boom! The huge impact landed on Yi Xian's chest. Yi Xian could only feel the qi and blood in his body churning. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of